Welcome back, guys. Hope you're doing great. It's Vitri here. It's been a long time, we know that, but we are preparing a huge content for you and we are working on several different projects as well. In this video, we're going to learn how to build a professional portfolio just by completely from the ground, and this is completely beginner friendly. Well, basically in this project, we use React with JavaScript and the Tailwind CSS, and we use the Shadcn UI. So this is completely beginner friendly, and this UI, it's built completely from the ground, and we are going to handle uh, some features like this scrolling feature. So if you scroll down, you can change the UI with the smooth transitions effects, and this entire website, it's completely responsive, and even on the mobile devices onwards, it is completely responsive. So we're gonna build ourselves a fully mobile friendly devices, so mobile friendly portfolio completely from the ground, and this is for the beginners. Okay, so built by using React with JavaScript. So we're gonna cover a lot of stuffs: how to work with the GitHub, how to work with the GitHub with the modern advanced practices like create a separate branch, pull and merge request, how to work with the GitHub in an even better way. Okay, so how to maintain your GitHub with the proper comments and all those things, and all these things are we got you covered completely from the ground. So if you are a beginner who learning the React for the very first time, this is the video for you guys. So don't miss it, watch the video completely to the end, and if you need the source code as well, as you can get the source code from the description below, and it's completely free. You can access it, or even if you want to make any modifications in this code, you can fork it. I can help you out. Okay, so without wasting your time, let's get into the video. And if you are watching this channel for a very first time, please hit the subscribe and the notification icons. That helps us to bring up with the more videos for you in future. All right, so let's get started. All right, guys, so now what we have to do is we have to create a new git project in our GitHub. So let me bring my browser over here. So here we go, and let us open the GitHub. So if you haven't installed or created an account in a GitHub, so please go ahead and register yourself a free account in GitHub, which in case it's asking me to sign in, I don't know why. Wait a minute, let me sign in. Sign in. All right, so I just authenticated myself with my GitHub account. Okay, so once you done creating your GitHub account, you just have to download the Git. So please go ahead and download Git. So here we go. So you have this Git download. So please go ahead and download for the platform, whatever the platform that you're using. So once you're done with this, if you're a Windows user, you just need to run this command: git config username and email. Right, so that gives you the git configurations, these two commands: git config global username and git config global user email. You have to config these two things globally, then you can run the git commands based on your uh, requirements. Okay, so you need to run these two commands on the git bash. Open the git bash and run these two commands for a very first time, not every time, for a very first time. So once you finish all these things, I hope you already did all these things, so we don't have to worry about that now. So let's create a new repository over here. So here I'm going to name this repository as, let's say, portfolio React JavaScript Shadcn and Feb 2026, right? So I'm gonna keep this as a public only, not as a private one. Keep it as a public. Create a repository. There we go. So now we have this git. So I'm gonna open my terminal and navigate myself into the desktop folder, cd desktop, and here I'm gonna create myself a new folder. So let's create a new folder by cloning it: git clone, paste that, and then I'm gonna create this folder, custom folder name. I'm not going to use this long folder name, so I'm gonna say portfolio React, something like this. Hit the enter. So that is going to create this project folder and cloning all the files which is inside. Currently that is completely empty, so it's going to clone that repository in the name of portfolio React. Then I'm going to open the portfolio React in the Visual Studio Code. There we go. So here we are, and I'm going to keep it in the side-by-side view here also. Okay. So now inside here, we need to bring our project, the React. So let's install the React. So let's get the React with Vite. So this is the one. So we have to click the Vite get started. So click this get started. And in that, I'm going to use the Tailwind CSS also. So Tailwind CSS also. So let's first install this. Then we can go ahead and set up that one. So you can choose whatever the package manages. That's up to you. I'm going to use the pnpm. So this is the command to install that. So let's bring it, clear it. So pnpm create Vite at latest dot slash. So we need to install the latest one. So either you can use the at latest or you can just use the Vite itself. So pnpm create Vite latest, that's the dot slash. The reason why I'm using the dot slash is because I need to bring all those files directly into this folder which we already created, right? So hit the enter, and that is going to bring all the necessary files. In this case, we're going to use the React, and I'm going to use the JavaScript. Okay, so it's asking us to use the experimental version. So let's go. This is the future default width, which is powered by roll down. Okay, let's stick to the older version itself, not an experimental. Install with pnpm and start now. Yes. So that is going to install all the necessary files, which is done, and it's run the local host. So let's open up our application. There we go. So which is working perfectly as it's supposed to be. So if you look into the project folder, you over here, you have this pnpm log file, because all the necessary packages which is installed, and this is the package.log file. And we have the Vite config.js. If you wish to configure any of the external plugins and everything, you can configure it over here. And inside the public folder, you have the files which is you need to load into your website. This logo. And in the source, you can see the assets and everything. And we have the index.css, the main CSS file, and app.css specifically for that specific component. And this is the main.js file. This is the place where it's getting being loaded. So we have this index.html. Inside the index.html, we have this root. This is the root which is going to load the entire component inside this division just by identifying that element over here. See, we are creating the root element by getting that element by ID root, and we are rendering it in the strict mode, right? So inside that, we are loading this app.jsx component. This is the functional component, modern functional component. Okay, this is the component which is being rendered inside this strict mode app component. Okay, so this is basically the project structure. Later, I will show you how to work on and customize all these stuffs and everything. So this is all about the project installation stuffs and everything. So let's move on to the next one. All right then, so we successfully created the React project, and now let's go ahead and install the Tailwind CSS with Vite. So if you search for Tailwind CSS with Vite, you can see the very first link provided by the Tailwind CSS itself. So you have to create a project, which we already did it. And this is the packages that I need to add. Here, I'm not going to use the npm. We are going to use the pnpm. So let me clear it. And I'm just going to say pnpm add. I'm going to copy these two packages and I'm going to paste it over here straight away. Something like this, pnpm tailwind css and add tailwind css Vite. Hit the enter. There we go. Then I need to configure this Tailwind CSS. So we need to configure this inside the vite.config.ts. So let's open that vite.config.js file. And here I need to bring this import statement. Let me bring that import statement. Then I need to bring this Tailwind CSS inside over here. Add the comma, so that needs something like this. Then let me get back over here, and I'm going to clear this app.css. I don't need that, and I'm going to completely delete the entire app.jsx, keep it clean. And you need to install two different extensions. The one which is going to be React snippets. If you search for React snippets, you can see simple React snippets, and you can see this ES7 React snippets. So please go ahead and install the ES7 plus React Redux React Native snippets, and you can please go ahead and install the simple React snippets. These two are necessary. This is optional, but you can have both of them. So once you install that, you have to install this Tailwind CSS. Search for Tailwind CSS. Either go ahead and install the Tailwind CSS complete kit, or just go ahead and install the Tailwind CSS IntelliSense alone, because that gives you the suggestions for the utility classes of the Tailwind CSS. Now, let me close this. And here, once you successfully install the Tailwind CSS snippets, so here basically we need to create the React components, right? So let's say import React from React. Then I need to have a custom functional component. In this case, I'm just going to say const app, which is equals to an arrow function. And this arrow function basically is going to return an HTML div element. Let's say app, right? And here I need to export this by default. So export default app. Then only I can get back over here inside the main.jsx. I can directly import that app over here, right? Like this. Now, if I run this application npm run dev, and if I check it out, you can see the app alone over here. So let me clear this entire index.jsx and let me get back over here and just copy this and paste it down over here. Save it. Now entirely it's wiped out. You just have the app.jsx text over here. Inside the app.jsx, so instead of typing it all by yourself, you can simply say RAFCE, React Arrow Functional Component Export. Hit the tab. That is going to create that boilerplate code for you. You can customize the app name or the component name just by changing the name over here like this. And you can press the escape key to remove that multi-cursor editor, right? Or you can type it all by yourself, right? So the snippets will help you to work in a React in a much faster way, right? So now we have to make sure that Tailwind CSS is working perfectly fine. So I'm just going to say class name. I'm going to change this color into text blue 600. Then I'm going to make this as a font bold. I'm going to make this as the size as text for Excel. If I save this, you should be able to see the changes instantly over here just by adding this few Tailwind utility classes. So if you're not sure what are these classes all about, you can go ahead and go through all these the Tailwind utility classes. It's quite simple, just like the native CSS. Just you need to know what you're typing. That's it, right? So it's not that much complicated, but you will. This comes really handy when you're working with the project, something like this. Mostly in the freelancers, this gives you the full flexibility and work in much faster way. So we successfully installed the Tailwind CSS, right? And now all we have to do is to go ahead and install the Shadcn UI for this entire application, because that's the UI library that we are going to use for this particular project. So let's go ahead and install the Shadcn UI now. All right, guys. So since we finished installing the Tailwind CSS, let's go ahead and install the Shadcn. So simply search for Shadcn UI, which opens the ui.shadcn.com. So hit the enter, right? So here you can simply click the get started option. So that is going to give you the ways to kickstart your the installation. So in this case, we're going to use this Vite. So hit the Vite. So we already created the Vite and we already added the Tailwind CSS as well as, right? And TS config, this is not necessary. This for here, this one, Vite config. So add the following code to your app. So resolve path without the error. So you just need to add these two stuffs over here. So in that case, I need to add this nodes as well as okay. So it's giving us the, let's ask the ChatGPT how to use Shadcn UI in React with JavaScript, not TypeScript. Let's ask this. So let's see what does it gives. Okay, so it's giving us the text stacks React wait. Okay, so we created this React JavaScript. Okay, so we added all those stuffs and everything. So it's asking us to add these two stuffs. Okay, which is pretty much given there. Okay, let's try Shadcn. So this is the stuff that it's been given. Edit is config current version of the Vite splits TypeScript configurations into 3 files. Okay. Let's try this. If it is not working, then we can change our project. So clear. So here I'm just going to add this. I think Shadcn, there is not much necessary of the uses of the Shadcn, but this is the quite popular UI component library. Let's try using this. Why not? So here I'm just going to say pnpm add at type/node. I think since we are not using TypeScript, this is not necessary. Okay, so let me open the white.config.js and here let me bring these two stuffs, copy and paste it. We already have that over here, so that is not necessary. And inside the plugins, we have the Tailwind CSS. Now I need to resolve this. So let me bring the resolve object and I need to set the alias name. And I'm going to set that add property, which is going to be for path.resolve. Resolve, I'm going to get 2 times underscore directory name, which is going to be src folder /src folder. Inside the source folder, whatever the files which is being imported, the root folder needs to be imported in the name as @/component/ something like that, right? So that's the thing. So then I need to run this command pnpm add. So let me add this pnpm add /cn init. Hit the enter. That is going to initialize the Shadcn. Okay. Okay, so it's saying no import alias in the tsconfig.js file. Okay, so it's expecting us to use the TypeScript. All right, so after some research, so I figured out. So since it's expecting us to by default it's searching for tsconfig.js, and so we have to create this jsconfig.js. So let's create that jsconfig.json. And here we need to bring that compiler options. So let's bring the compiler options, which is basically going to be your base URL property. Get that base URL property, and I'm going to keep the dot. Then I'm going to bring the paths, open it, and I'm going to set the paths as @/star. Okay, which is going to be mapped with this ./src/star. So basically what we are instructing over here is wait a minute, let me align this properly. Okay, so here we are getting an error. Base URL replicated will stop functioning in TypeScript. Okay, so this is not an issue, let's ignore it. So here this is the step. So basically we are going to add the import alias, whatever the file which is coming under the source folder, that is what we are mentioned over here in the JS config, and we already configured the same path resolve for that particular import alias name. Okay, so now let's run this okay, save this. Let's run this clear. Let's reinitiate that pnpm dls Shadcn latest init. So that is going to pick that thing from there, and it validated the import alias properly, and I'm going to choose the color pattern, neutral color pattern, and it is going to import all the necessary things. See, CSS variable inside the index.css has been updated. source index.css has been updated. If you click that index.cs, all these things are created by the Shadcn. Then inside the library folder, you have this util files. We have the cn function to merge the Tailwind CSS utility classes for the conditional rendering, right? And now we need to add that these stuffs. So I'm just going to copy this, copy, Either you can install the necessary components all by yourself, just by one, or simply run this command pnpm dlx shadcn add, and you can select the button A to select all these components and hit the enter. So that is going to install all these components under the folder name called components inside your source folder itself, installing all the dependencies. And inside the source folder you should be able to see the components, and inside the components you should be able to see the apportion.jsx. See, all these components are being successfully added inside your components folder, right? So now we have all those components inside over here. Okay, and then tooltip, it's been added, but it needs the tooltip provider component. Anyways, we're not going to use that tooltip provider. Let's check that out, as well as in the index.html. This is the index.html. This is the place it's asking us to import this tooltip provider. Okay, so don't worry, we are not going to use that tooltip. Close this and let me run this application, pnpm run dev. So if you get back over here, refresh this app.jsx, it's been working. So I'm going to bring that button component over here. Let me bring that button component from add base UI slash react. But in this case, we need to bring it from where? Here, this one, UI slash button. Okay, so here this needs to be add slash components. So we need to bring add slash component slash UI slash button like this. Okay, and here I'm just going to say click me, save it, and here we go. So we have that click me component, which is successfully, this is the button. And if you want to change this, I can change this size into the icon size into icon. See, this is how. So since this Shadcn work much stronger with the TypeScript, right? But here we are using the JavaScript. That's the reasons the suggestions and all these things are not listing up. But if you want to work, if you want to understand what's the button it's doing, click the button and you can see all the props. What are the different props over here? Size, what is the size? See, these are the default size. It's extra small, small, default. Check it out, you can see how they are using these size properties and everything. So basically, if you're using TypeScript, these auto suggestions will be listed out over here. But since we are not using TypeScript, we are using JavaScript, this should work. So we successfully installed the Shadcn with the JavaScript over here, and it's working smoothly as we expected. Okay, so let's go ahead. And anyways, in this project, we are not going to rely mostly on JavaScript, this Shadcn, but having this Shadcn UI component, it makes the work easier. So that's why we installed it. All right, so let's move on to the next section. All right, then, since we successfully installed the React project, integrated the Tailwind CSS, and installed the Shadcn UI, now all we have to do is to go ahead and push all these things into the GitHub. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, so get into the Git source over here. Okay, so currently it is being pushing on the main branch. This is the initial push, so we can put it into directly into the main branch itself. But every time whenever you're working something else on new, you have to create yourself a separate branch. Then you need to push that to your GitHub and create a pull request. So if you're working with the team members, so the team can evaluate that pull request, that branch completely. If there is any mistakes over there, they can write the comments over there, so you can make the changes and everything. If they want to roll back it completely, you can simply delete that branch, so your main branch will remain untouched. Okay, so that's the best practice. So in theoretically you might feel confused, but don't worry, I got you back. So we are going to do some advanced practices by using the GitHub over here. So here I'm just going to say changes project initialized and Tailwind CSS and Shadcn UI integrated. Okay, give a proper comment and click the commit. And all I have to do is to publish this. So push to your remote. Now, if you get back over here in and click this, you should be able to see your source code, and you can see some of the comments on the readme file. Don't worry, we will customize this readme file entirely at the end of this sessions, right? So we successfully pushed our initial git over here. Now all we have to do is to go ahead and create the header section, and that's what we are going to do next. All right then, so now let's go ahead and set up the header section. So let me get back over here, and inside let me close all these stuff. Inside this main.jsx, let me close that, and this button, I'm gonna keep this app.jsx simply clean. So I'm just going to say div create it, and let's make this class name. This needs to be completely width needs to be a screen width, and minimum height needs to be the screen height, and flex needs to be flex 1. Okay, and yep, save these changes. Okay, so we don't have to do anything else over here. And inside here we are going to bring the header section, then we need to bring the home section, then we need to bring the works section, then we need to bring our, what are the things that we need to bring? We need to bring our about us sections, about us, then we need to bring the services sections, then we need to bring the testimonial sections, then finally we need to bring the contact sections, and finally we need to bring the footer. Okay, these are the stuff that we need to work on. All right, so in that case, the first, what we are going to do, we are going to work on the header section, and let's go ahead and create that. Okay, so since we are going to create this entire web app into a single page applications, we are not going to use any router and stuff, all those things, because if you are going to work with the multiple pages stuff like a router, if you are going to use the React router DOM, you need to work along with the layouts as well as. But in this case, we are going to keep it as a single page. Okay, just the UI stuff. So this kind of structuring, it's more than enough for the beginner level understanding. This is more than enough. All right. So let's go ahead and create, and inside the components folder, I'm going to create myself a new component called header.jsx. And I'm just going to say RAFC, and I'm going to give a name as header. Save it. And let's bring that header component over here, header from /component, but please make sure that needs to be imported from @components. Okay. So @components/header, save it. So let's rerun our application npm run dev. So you should be able to see right now the header. Here we go. Okay, so in the header section, what we need to do is, let me show you, wait a second. So in the header section, basically what we need to do is we need to create a header straight away over here. Okay, and inside this header, this is the place where I need to bring my heading, that my name, and this is the place where I need to bring our the home services and all those things. And here we need to bring a button called contact, so user can click it. But on the other hand, on the mobile devices, on the medium devices onward, this is how the header is going to look like. We're going to have our name over here, and we are going to have a small toggle button, which going to bring the entire, it's going to cover the entire page, something like this. And here we are going to bring that X mark, and in the center of the screen, we are going to bring that name and the navigational menus and the contact buttons and all those stuffs. Okay, that's the mobile screen layout, and that's the normal layout. So basically we are going to have a scroll listener, because initially it is going to be little how something like the transparent layout, but once the user starting scroll down, we're going to bring a header in the center of the location with a blur effect and something like that. So we're going to have an active scroll listener event as well as. These are the stuffs that we need to do with the header sections. So let's go ahead and start do that. So inside the header section, so what I'm going to do is I'm gonna change this into a proper tag header, and inside this header I'm gonna bring myself an h2 tag. Okay, so I'm gonna say that name as Madison, then add a dot over there. Then here I'm gonna bring the nav tag. Inside the nav tag I'm gonna bring the ul tag, and inside the ul tag this is the place where we need to bring the li tags. So all I have to do is to get into the utils folder. Here I'm going to create myself a new folder called utils. Inside the utils folder I'm going to create a new file called helper.js file, and here I'm just going to say export const nav menus is equals to array of object. So here I'm just going to say what we can label, which is going to be home, and url, which is going to be slash, then and icon, it's not necessary. These are the things. So I'm going to copy this and I'm going to paste it few more times. So this time this is going to be works, and here I'm just going to say slash hash works. Okay, and just like the same way we need to change for about, and we need to change for the works. Wait a minute, we need to bring the works about, then we need to bring the services, and here we need to bring the hash services. Then we need to bring the testimonials, then at last one more thing, which is going to be contact. Okay, contact, which is going to be hash contact. This is the navigational menu, and all those navigational menus needs to be rendered over here. So I'm just going to bring, and I'm going to say nav menus from @util slash helper dot map function. Open it. I'm gonna extract the menu as well as the index, then I'm gonna render it. I'm gonna bring the li tag, and I'm gonna create the key, unique key, which is going to be dynamic string literals. I'm gonna append the index hyphen. I need to join that the menu URL, because the URLs are unique. So I'm gonna join that URL along with the menu dot URL. That's the key, unique key. And inside here I'm going to simply create an anchor tag, and this anchor tag, it's going to have the reference as menu.url itself, url, and inside here I'm going to bring that menu.label itself. Okay, let's close this. So save it. That's how it is going to looks like. Okay, so you can see where we have this all those menus and everything. Now right after here I'm going to bring that button. So let me bring that button component from button. Okay, from where dot slash UI button, so which is going to be at slash component slash UI slash button, and here I'm just going to say contact, save it. So you should be able to see that button over here. Okay, so here what I need to do is I don't need to display this contact because we already have the contact, but in maybe in the future in the footer also you might, I need to add those contact options and everything. You can keep this, but here in this particular point I don't need this contact because I do have a separate button for that. So here for this class name, or you can simply say size, I'm just going to keep the button size as a small, okay, smaller size. Okay, and yeah, that's pretty much good enough. So I can simply get over here and change the class name as the cursor, or what I can do is I can simply wrap this up, all these things into an anchor tag and put it into a cursor. So that should here hashtag is going to be hash slash contact, so that should push the user to the contact page. So let's create class name cursor pointer, save it. So you should be able to see the cursor as the pointer. Now this header is basically, it's going to be class name, which is going to be flex, completely flex direction. And every item needs to be in the center, and justify needs to be between. That's how it needs to looks like. This is how it looks. Okay. And width, of course, it's going to be full width, occupy the complete full width over there. All right. So now what I need to do is, so this over here, this needs to take the container width. The maximum width needs to be the container width. Container width, and mx needs to be auto. So which means even if you are stretching out, it will not stretch beyond this entire length over there, right? So it will always fixed at this point. So maximum it's going to take the 1500 pixels something, not beyond that. That's why we are using the container. And mx auto, it means basically it will align the container in the center positions. All right, so this is good. That's pretty much good enough. That's what we needed. And for this, as well as class name, flex, item center, and gap needs to be 6. Save it. This is how it looks. So later we can add some padding effects over here, padding P4. Okay, that's how it looks. All right. And this header basically, it needs to be fixed always on the top of the point, fixed, and it needs to be always on the top left, top corner, top left corner, something like this. And it needs to be on top of everything, z index 50. Okay, that's how it looks. And the scroll containers and stuffs and everything, later we can add that, because currently you can't add that scroll container stuffs and everything. For this, I'm just going to say class name. Text needs to be 2xl, or even we can go for the medium devices onwards. Text needs to be 4xl. That's how it looks. Okay, and it needs to be italic, and font needs to be serif, something like this. This is how it looks. I think that's pretty cool enough. And font needs to be semi bold. Okay, semi bold, it's a little bit. Font needs to be normal, on normal. That's pretty much good enough. And then the text neutral color needs to be 800. That's how, or even you can keep it as a 700. Okay, I think that's good enough. For in my case, 700 is more than enough. So let me enable the word wrap so you can see it completely. Okay, let's stick with the 3xl. That would be better. Yes. Okay, so now that is awesome. And this is on the medium devices onwards. Padding needs to be 8. Okay, smaller devices padding needs to be 4, but on medium devices padding needs to be 8. So for this li tag, or even for this anchor tag, so whenever I'm hovering it, I need to change my color stuff. So what I'm going to do is, I'm just going to say class name. Okay, so here I'm just going to say something like this. Text needs to be neutral 500 or 600. 600 is more than enough. And whenever I'm hovering it, it needs to change the color to text 800. And when I'm hovering it, font needs to be semi bold, something like this. That's how it looks. And the transitions, that needs to be smooth transitions. Durations needs to be 75. So that will have some true smooth transmissions. Transition all, and ease in out. So that will have that smooth transition effect. Okay, so and this needs to have some padding, let's say 0.25. This is how it looks. Okay, we have some nice padding effects, and as well as we have some nice these scrolling effects, and as well as, all right. So so now if you click this, click this, yes. So now everything is pretty much good enough. Now what we need to do is, basically we need to figure it out how to get the active, the URL, the active, which particular menu is currently active. So we have to get that, right? So let me show you. So since we have to work with the active navigation stuffs and everything, so we have to make some few changes over here. Okay, So instead of directly giving it as hash and all those things, I'm going to set a query parameter over here, right? Something like this. So instead of this hashtags, I'm going to close this. I'm going to add a query parameter question mark. Then I'm going to set a query name called section, which is equals to home, works, about, services, and all those stuff. Okay. So, um, mm, mm, mm. Okay. So now what we have to do is, so we have that query parameters over here, the quirks and everything. Now we need to set the keys as well as the unique key property for over here and here. So I'm going to use the control, sorry, alt or option key. So create a multi-cursor editor. So here we're going to set the key property. So which is going to be home. And here this is going to be works, about, and services and testimonials. These are all going to be the unique keys, so we can directly use these keys inside our sections. Or if you don't want that, you can stick with the index itself. Okay, so here inside the header, now let's get back into the header. Now what I need to do is, so I need to make some customizations over here. So we need two important stuff. One is for handling that click event. So let's create that click event. Const handle navigational link click is equals to an arrow function. Give a proper name so that you can understand that what exactly it's happening. Okay, then we need to have the use effect functions to work through to identify which one has been active and all those stuff. And I need to have an active section. We need to figure it out which is the active section. So I'm going to create a state which is equals to react.useState itself. Okay, and by default the active state, it's going to be home state. We are setting that. So here I'm just going to say active section. Then I'm just going to create a function called set active section. Okay, these are the stuffs. Now I need to read the URL every time whenever it's been loaded. Okay, so if it is moving backward or forward, whatever it is, we need to read that properly. So read URL on load every time whenever it's been load, and if the user is moving back and forward directions. Okay, back and forward navigational stuff every time we need to read it properly. So for that I'm going to use the use effect hook, react.use effect hook. Open it. It needs to supply the array injections over here. Let's keep as an empty injections because we don't want to re-render on every changes. So here I'm just going to say const sync from URL. We are going to need to sync the URL because it is going to be an arrow function. And here I need to access the URL search params because it is going to have the search params on the URL. So we need to access those URLs. So const params is equals to new URL search params. Open it, where from the window dot location dot search, we need to access that. Then I need to identify that section, which section is being loaded. Const section is equals to params dot get the parameter name, which is going to be the section itself. Section. If it is not there, then you need to set the value as default as home. So I'm just going to say set action, set active section, which is going to be that section itself. If it is nothing there, set the home as the for optional one, because sometimes if it might not be there, so we need to set the home as the optional one. Then I need to call this function sync from URL. Call this function. Then I need to add the event listener. So I'm just going to say window.add event listener pop state. Okay, this is the state function. This is the function that we are going to add, pop state. Okay, so pop state. I'm not sure what is this pop state. Let me get it over here. Wait a minute. Let me open the chat. What is pop state? In order to explain, I need to understand it first. Okay, see, the pop state is the event JavaScript fired on window object every time the active history entry changes, because currently the home is active and it has been changing. That means this event will be triggered automatically. And that's what we needed, right? Every time when the user being changing from one to another, this event needs to be triggered. Okay, so if you are in home, it is the active state. If it is been changing to works, then it event will be fired up and it will figure out what is the query parameters. Then based on that, we will change the active link and all those stuff. Okay, hope you understand. Then now we need to clean it up properly, otherwise this will cause us the memory issues. Okay, performance issues. So window dot remove event listener, the pop state, and supply that function sync from URL. You need to handle it properly, otherwise it is going to cause you a huge trouble. Okay, so every time whenever the user clicking this, I will supply the menu, complete menu into it. Okay, then from that I'm going to extract the URL is equals to new URL, use the URL instance. Then I'm going to get the window dot location, window dot location. I will get that complete window location. Then I need to check whether if the menu dot key, if it is equals to home, then we need to clean the URL for home. So how I can clean? I just have to say URL dot search is equals to empty. Then I need to set the history. So window dot history dot push state, open it. I'm not going to keep any query parameters. Keep this as an empty instance, supply the empty string, then supply the URL. Okay, then I need to scroll the user to the top and the behavior needs to be smooth. So window dot scroll to, use the scroll to function where we need to scroll every time when the user clicks this needs to scroll to the top. So let's say top is equals to 0. Then we need to set the behavior as well, as behavior that needs to be the smooth behavior, something like this. Then I need to say set active section, which is going to be home itself, the active section. That's it. Then at the end, all I have to say return. This is how you need to set the home as the clean URL for the home section. And now we need to write the stuff for the other sections. On the other hand, how to write the code for the other sections. So here I'm just going to say URL.search params, access the search params, then set, use the set function to set the section. Okay, and I'm going to supply the key, whatever the key. If it is works, set the section as works, because that's what we needed, right? Works. Make sure these keys and the URLs are having the same term, otherwise it is not going to work. So please make sure everything is exactly as it is. Okay, then next what I need to do is I need to set the window history. So let's say window dot history, open that history. Okay, sorry, we need to add the push state as well, as push state function, open it, keep the data. I'm not going to send any data in it, keep it as an empty object itself. Then here you need to supply the unused string, so this is also going to be an empty string. And finally you need to supply the URL, which is going to be the URL which we generated, URL. Okay, save it. Then next what I need to do is I need to add the element. So because inside these sections we are going to use this key as the ID, we are going to set that key as the ID. So I need to access those DOM element and push the user to that DOM element. So from the document dot get element by ID, which is in the name of menu dot key itself, then I need to push the user to that scroll. So scroll into view, use this function to, because here you will have the home section, and if you scroll down you have the work sections and all those things. Each section has the unique ID which is going to be your key. So every time when the user clicks that, it needs to push that user to the to that particular scroll, right? So that's why we are using the scroll into view behavior. Push the user, so set the behavior as the smooth behavior. Then block where you need to display. So every time when I click works, it need to display the starting point of the work. So start. Okay, so if you click center, it's get into the center of the section. So we don't want to get into the center. We need to see the complete topmost section of that, topmost part of that section. So that's why. Okay, then right after here, what I need to do, I need to say set active section, which is going to be the menu dot key as the active section. So this is all about the function. Okay, now based on this active section, now what I need to do is I need to change the look of the UI. So this is the place where we are rendering it, right? This is the place where we are rendering. So I'm just going to cut this out, cut it out, and delete this bracket, as well as open the curly brackets, normal curly parenthesis. Here const is active is equals to, based on the active section, that active section, if it is equals to the menu dot key itself, which means it is active, at that point I just need to return this. Okay, let's keep the key as the unique key. So I don't want this, so I'm just going to keep the menu dot key itself, that's the unique one. Okay, then for this the styles part over here, so I'm going to keep this exactly as it is. So I'm going to cut this out completely from here, open the normal brackets. Then I'm going to use the cn function from the library folder, supply the default styles. Then if it is active, only if it is active, I'm going to change the text color into text neutral 800, and the font needs to be the semi bold. Okay, save it. Now you can see the home section is active, so that's the reason it is being displayed in a different color style, right? So every time when this has been happening, so we need to have the on click event as well as, so whenever user is been clicking, we need to access that event. Then we need to send the user into that particular event, right? So I need to prevent that default refresh. So let's prevent the default refreshments. Then I need to say handle click navigation, supply that menu into it. Okay, so now if you click that, it is going to push the user into that particular section. Section is equals to work, and you can see work has been active. If I click service, you can see the service has been active. If I click home, it's been active. That is what we needed, and which is working perfectly as we expected. And if you click the sections, this one, contact sections, as well as, what I need to do, I need to push the user into contact section. So I'm just going to copy this, get back over here, and I'm going to paste it and change this into contact. Save it. So if the user clicks this contact, it is going to push the user into the contact section, and click the works. So this needs to be so every time whenever this needs to be, this clicks, it needs to be prevent the default, right? So we need to prevent the default loading. So for that, I'm gonna say on click, open the event dot prevent default, open it. Then I need to handle this click event. So let's say handle, but this time we don't have the menu, but instead of menu, we have to supply this object itself. Copy this object and paste it. And oops. Okay, instead of testimonials label, it's going to be contact, and here also it is going to be contact itself. Okay, save it. Now it is going to prevent that default active stuff and everything. Okay, if you click the home, if it is works, this is how it is going to looks like. Okay, so now we successfully finished this the active sections and all those stuff. And now all we have to do is to make sure this is completely responsive, and we need to have that the active scroll container sections and everything. Sorry, not that active scroll. Every time whenever the user starts the scrolling, we need to make some changes in the UI, and that's the part we need to do it. Let's keep that section now, and let's move on to the next stuff. Let's display some home, about, and sections and all those things, and then we can come back and do that stuff over here. All right, so let's move on to the next section now. All right, then, since we successfully finished the header sections, but we have to do the responsiveness and we have to work on the scroll view container as well as. So let's work that particular part later. Let's focus on the home section now. So what we have to do is, all we have to do is to bring some nice gradient over here, the gradient structure over here. So in order to do that, let me jump back into the app.jsx. This is the place where I need to bring the home container. So let me create myself a new folder over here called containers. Inside the containers, I'm going to create myself this home.jsx. And here RAFCE, I'm just going to make sure this is the home. Then I'm going to bring that home container over here, home from var dot slash containers. Let's make this as at slash containers slash home. So save it. You should be able to see that home sections over there. All right. So now what I have to do is over here, let me jump into the class divisions over here. So first I need to figure out what is the height of this. So inspect elements, the header section. So basically the height of this, it's going to be the 100 pixels, right? So I need to use the padding of 120 pixels on the top. So what we need to do is this needs to occupy the width as full and the minimum height. So the height of this, it's going to be the screen height. Okay, then I'm just going to use the b background gray 100, something like this. This is what it looks, right? So and then I need to increase the padding top. From the padding, I need to increase the 120 pixels. That's how it looks. If you feel 120 pixels it's a bit too much, you can change that into, like, what, say 30. It's something like that, 28 or even 24. I think 24 it's much better, right? So 24 it's more appropriate. Now we know that the content is being stretched from the top and it's completely taking the overall height and everything, which is exactly what we needed, right? So this is the place where we need to bring that outer gradient. Okay, so let's go ahead and bring that outer gradient. So I'm gonna use ours. I'm gonna use the background gradient styles and everything. So I'm gonna make sure this positions as the related positions. We fix the width and height. Okay, so over here now what we are going to do is we are just going to bring that the background gradient, right? So I'm gonna name this as the outer gradient. Okay, that's the custom name because we're gonna write the native CSS. So inside the app.jsx, sorry, index.js CSS. So right after here in the base, I'm gonna say dot outer gradient. If you are going to directly write the Tailwind CSS, you have to use this at apply rule in order to write the Tailwind CSS. But in this case, I'm not going to write the Tailwind CSS. I'm gonna write the linear gradient. So let's say background linear gradient. Okay, so it needs to turn 90 degree. Then I'm gonna bring the color codes. So wait a minute, let me fetch the color codes. Okay, so this is the style that I want to write it out over here. Okay, this is how it looks. This is the outer gradient color. Okay, so yep, that's pretty much good enough. Now what we need to do is, so let's bring the next inner structure over here. We need to bring a small gradient circle over here. Then we need to bring at the bottom gradient left and bottom right gradient. Okay, so for that, what I'm going to do is get into the home section. I'm going to create 3 subdivisions over here, which is going to be dot radial hyphen vg. This is the one. Then bottom left gradient, then bottom right gradient effect. These are the 3 different styles which we are going to write. So let's target this, get into here, and right after here I'm gonna say dot radial bg, open it. So for the radial background, what we are going to do is I'm gonna make sure this position this position, it needs to be the absolute position. Then it needs to take the complete insert points, top, left, right, bottom corner, take the complete. Then I'm going to fix the height, which is going to be the 500 pixels, not more than that. Then I'm going to say background, which is going to be the radial gradient. We're going to use the radial gradient. So let me bring that complete class over here so you can pass it and type it all by yourself. This is the style. So it's going to be circle. It needs to start from the position at the top. Then these are the color codes. What is the color code I need for all the certain corners over here? So if I save this, this is how it looks. Okay, that's what we needed. Perfect. Then next I need to target on the next section, which is going to be the bottom left gradient. Let me get into here, and right after here, let's bring that bottom left gradient. So for the bottom left gradient, we need to bring that bottom left gradient at the bottom over here. So I'm going to fix the width and height. Width, it's going to be 500 pixels. Height as well as it's going to be 500 pixels. Then the position, of course, it's going to be the absolute position. Then it needs to be sticked at the bottom. So bottom 0. All right. Now I need to bring the background, which is going to be the same radial gradient, which is exactly going to be the same thing from here. Copy and let's adjust some values over here. Okay, just exactly the same stuff, nothing else. So I'm going to save it, but we are going to adjust the positions. It needs to be circle at bottom left corner. See, now you can see this is how it looks at the bottom left. All right, then we need to target the bottom right corner. So I'm going to copy that bottom right corner, copy it, and right after here, paste it, bottom right corner, open it, and that bottom right corner, it's going to be exactly the same stuff. Okay, either I think I don't need this much of height, 300. I think 500 would be great. Okay, so now I'm just going to copy this stuff completely from here. Then I'm just going to change this from, instead of bottom left, I'm going to change this into bottom right. Save it. It looks like this. Okay, but we need to push it to the right side corner. So here we need to add one more property called right. So this is how it looks, which is exactly what we needed, right? So now the entire gradient stuff, it's looking great. And even if you're reducing it, this is how it looks in the mobile view, and in the big screen, this is how it looks. So the gradient stuff part is it's done. Now all we have to do is to bring ourselves the profile image at the center, exactly the center over here. Then we need to bring a text, something like the text over here, and we need to bring a text over here, and we need to bring a text over here. These are all the stuffs that we need to do. So basically all these stuffs are going to be mostly the position, absolute positions. So placing here and there, it makes a little bit complicated, but we have to do that stuff. So the home gradient section, it's completely done. Now all we have to do is to focus on bringing the items in this particular position. So let's go ahead and bring that now. Okay, and that's what we are going to do next. All right then, so now let's go ahead and start loading that the center hero image. So in order to do that, you need the hero image, right? So click the link in the drive link in the description below, so you can see these 3 different images over there. So you can choose whatever the image that you wish to. Okay, so in this case, I'm gonna bring the wait a minute. So let me bring that image, get into the assets folder, and I'm gonna bring that image over here, image 3. This is the image I'm gonna use, and I'm gonna rename this image as hero pg, something like this, hero pg. Okay, then inside the assets, I'm gonna create myself a new folder called, new file called index.js, and here I need to export that. So export default as hero pg from @/assets/hero bg.png. So please make sure this file name and this file name both are same. Then let's get back into the home, and here I need to import that from hero bg from assets. Let's import that file. Okay, So now what we need to do is I need to bring the image profile image. So let's bring that image, which is the hero image. And right after here, I need to bring a division. So let's say class name, which is going to be the absolute one. Then it needs to be insert 0. Then it needs to be top of everything. So Z10. Then it needs to be flex, justify, center, and items needs to be at the end. Okay, then the pointer events needs to be none. We should not have any pointer events for that particular division. Then inside this division, now let me enable the view word wrap, and here I'm going to bring that image tag. So let me bring that image, and for this the alternative, which is going to be the Madison, that's the name that we are going to use. Yeah, that's the name. Then I'm going to bring the source, which is going to be your hero bg, that's the one which we fetched. And I'm gonna use the class name for this. So for this, I'm gonna fix the width as 320 pixels on mobile devices onwards. Okay, 320 pixels, and slightly which is bigger for us biggest mobile devices onwards, I'm gonna make sure this 380 pixels. And the medium devices onwards, I'm gonna make sure the width which is going to be the 420 pixels. Then on the large devices onwards, I'm going to make sure the width is going to be 640 pixels. Okay, that's the thing. Then I'm going to enable the grayscale because it's already a black and white image only. But anyways, so then contrast, which is going to be 125. So let's keep the contrast as 125. Then the brightness, which is going to be 110. Okay, then I'm gonna make sure object needs to be contained, not a cover, it should contained. Then object needs to be at the bottom. Okay, if everything is working fine, you should be able to see this image in this particular position. Now along with this, I'm gonna increase one more style, which is going to be image mask. This is the custom style which we don't have. So I'm going to save this, and I'm going to get into the index.css. So right after this bottom right gradient, I'm gonna bring that image mask because we need to make sure this image blend along with this background gradient properly. So for that, I'm gonna use this mask image property. Then I'm gonna apply the linear gradient. It needs to be from the top position to top. From there, it needs to start from with the transparent. Okay, 0 percentage, and at the end it needs to be black 15 percentage. If you apply this mask image properly, you should be able to see that image is blended properly with that background gradient, and that's what we needed, right? So now all we have to do is to go ahead and bring that the texture, the text positions, so how we want it. So I need this image to a little bit even bigger, so let me change this into 840, something like this. 820. 780. Yep, I think this would be more appropriate. Okay, I think this is good. So now all we have to do is to go ahead and bring that the rest of the stuff. So first I need to bring the texture. Hey there, text over here. So let's go ahead and bring that text. Okay, so now what we need to do is this is the this is the text. Okay, so this is what I tried, but anyways, we're not going to do this. So let's see. So here what I'm going to do is I'm going to create myself a div. Okay, div. So with this division, what we are going to do is I'm going to make this position as a relative position. Relative, then it needs to be on top of everything Z20. Then flex direction needs to be in the column direction. Then items need to be in the center position, and the text everything needs to be also in the center positions. Okay, so padding, from the padding top, I'm going to bring it because if you're directly adding some text, it will be on the top. So I'm going to increase the padding, so padding 32. Okay, then I'm going to make sure the pointer events are none. Pointer events none. Something like this. Now inside this division, so we're gonna bring as a text, a paragraph text, or let's keep it as the heading to something like that. So I'm going to make sure this as the hey there, something like that, hey there. Okay, so for that, now what we need to do is we need to apply the color changes. So I think I should be able to see that text over here. See here, it is here. You can't see because it's the color is, so I'm gonna say text white. Now you should be able to see that. Okay, anyways, it is not going to be in the white color. We are going to change the color anyways. So I'm gonna delete this. So for this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure the color, so let's say text neutral, which is going to be 700, and the font needs to be bolder, and the font needs to be serif, font serif, and it needs to be italic, and it needs to be normal, not bold. It needs to be normal. Now if you see that, that's how it looks. Then the text size, it's going to be 6 XL. 6 XL. Save it. Okay. Medium devices, text needs to be 7 XL, and large devices needs to be text needs to be 8 XL, something like this. Okay, and let me adjust the padding now. Let's keep this as 24, and I need to bring it even a little bit higher. Well, and it needs to be even padding top 6. I think this would be much better, this position. Okay, so I think this is great. And hey there, that's the text which we wanted it, right? So let's keep this behind the image. So now if I adjust this padding top, let me adjust this padding top into 16. Okay, so now that would be great. Hey there. Okay, so that's the text. Let the text go be behind it. 10 XL. Okay, that is no 10 XL size. So let's get the 9 XL size. I think this would be more better. So then I need to say have the letter tracking. It needs to be tracking wider. Needs to be widest. No, not negative. It needs to be the positive. Okay, now it is much better way. Okay, this is what we needed. Then we need to bring the a division, one more division at this point over here. Okay, so let's go ahead and bring that. So mostly everything is going to be the absolute positions only, so we don't have to but the thing is, based on the small devices onwards, we need to adjust it properly. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that now. So I think this is the great position for this particular text. And then we need to bring one more division over here, and one more naming container over here, and one more content section over here, and another content section over here. These are the positions that I need to bring. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that stuff, all the typographic stuff. Okay, it's asking me to update. I need perfect. All right, people, since we successfully finished the image sections and as well as the content, the hey there sections over here, now as per the design, I want to bring some available opportunities and some specialized area sections and our naming sections and our digital product sections, right? So these are the things. So what we can do is, so let me show you 1 minute. So, okay, not that one. Sorry. So let me bring my screen brush. There we go. So what exactly we are trying to do is, so we need to bring our available for new opportunities area over there, and here our specializations. This is the place where we want to display these specializations, and this is the place where we want to display our name over there, and this is the place our role, what exact role that we are doing it. Okay, so let's display that. So what we can do is, since this particular division, this is entirely occupying the overall area, width area over here, right? So what we can do is we can mark this one as a separate division, and we can mark this as a separate division, and we can mark this as a separate division. We can use the flex box and we can make them to distribute the space between them evenly, right? And that's what we are going to do now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure this one accessing the 100% width, and this needs to be justified between. Okay, and just like the head to tag h2 tag, so we have to make some adjustments over here. So right after here, I'm going to bring myself a div class name which is going to be width full, and flex, we can say item center and justify between, and padding, of course it needs to be have some padding in between, so px is going to be 12. Save it. And inside here I'm going to bring myself one more division which is going to be class name, and padding which is going to be 2, and rounded it's going to be full, rounded full, and bg it's going to be white, shadow which is going to be small. Okay, if I save it, I can't see anything. Let's see, hi there or something. Okay, so here we are, we have that at the bottom, so which means we have to bring one more division, so I have to bring one more. So that means I should able to see this at this point over there. Okay, instead of justify between, what happens if we are using space around? Okay, so space around, it's looking much more better way, but we have to make some adjustments for this. Instead of this padding top, let me remove this. Okay, still we need to push it a little bit further. So space around, it's not going to work. So what if it is evenly? So that is also looking awkward. Okay, so we have to adjust this guy a little bit manually. So minus mt 12 or something. Okay, so minus padding top 12. Oops. Minus padding top equals to et. No, nothing is been happening. We can adjust this something like this. I think that would be great. Yep, this would be fine. And I can adjust this guy also, as well as I can increase the padding minus 12 or something. Something like that. I think let's check this out, and then we can adjust, make the adjustments here and there. Okay, so here what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a division class name like this class name, which is going to be width as 8, height as 8, and bg red 300, rounded full, and flex item center justify center, and here one more division class name width 4, height as 4, bg red 600, rounded full. Let's check this out. This is how it looks. So what we can do is here I can make this 8 as 6, and here I can make this 4 as 2. That how it looks. And this guy, it needs to be 100, and this guy, that needs to be 300 or 400. Let's make this as 3, so that would be a little bit bigger. And here for this I need this pulse animation, so animation pulse. Okay, so now we have that animation pulse effect over there, something like that. Okay, and right after here, these two divisions, right after these two divisions, I need to bring a span tag which is going to display available for new opportunities. Is spelling correct? New opportunities. I think that's correct. Okay. So now what we have to do is this division is going to be having flex item center and gap, which is going to be 2. That's how it looks. And for the span tag, I'm going to say text extremely small and text is going to be neutral 500. That's how it looks. Okay. Or even we can make it a little bit darker. That would be great. And we need to adjust the padding. So I'm just going to say px, it's going to be 4. Okay. That would be perfect, or it would be look something like this, which is looking so good. And then now on the right hand side, this is the one division, right? And the right hand side, this is the place where we need to bring the specialized text over here. So I'm gonna bring myself a paragraph tag. I'm just going to say specialized in web design and UX UI UX. Okay, something like this. And we can say webflow and front end development, front end development, or even you can put yourself full stack development, something like this. So I do have that text over there. So for this, what we can do is, so class name, so I'm gonna fix the width, not like that. And then text, it needs to be aligned in the left side. That's how it needs to be aligned. And the width, we can even make it a little bit bigger. Let's give it as 50. I think that would be great. And the text size needs to be S, or we can say base text SM, smaller size. Oh, come on. Something like that. So we can adjust the width now. Okay. And then letter, so tracking, it's going to be wider. So it would looks like this. And font semi bold and text neutral 700 or something. So that's how it looks. Okay, which is perfect. That's the exact same way which we wanted. You can, if you wish to keep the font semi bold, it's up to you. I'm going to remove it. I think that would be even much better right now. Okay, and then instead of this, I'm going to bring myself an h1 tag. H1, I'm just going to say I am Madison, something like this. Save it. I am Madison. So here I'm just going to say class name, which is going to be text3xl. Okay, text3xl, and this division that needs to be on top of everything, so which needs to be 50. Now that's how it looks. And here I'm going to bring the br tag. So that is going to be breaked. And right after here, this needs to be text align, needs to be in the left side. That's how it looks. And mobile devices, it needs to be a bit 6xl, something like this. This is how, oh no, not that much, 4xl. But since the medium devices, since it needs to be 8xl. Okay, this is on the medium devices. And on the large devices, I'm gonna say 10xl something. Text needs to be 9xl. Okay, I think that would be great, which means we can keep this as 7xl on the medium devices. Text left, and font needs to be extra bold, or even let's keep it as bold. Okay, that would be great. Okay, and font serif, nope, that's not looking good. And what we can do is we can use the font sans. Yeah, I think that would be great. And then text neutral, which is going to be 800. That's what we needed. And now I can adjust the padding margin effect itself. So I don't need this margin effect at the top. And we can, instead of around, I can simply say between. Yep, now that would be great. And instead of this margin, I can adjust this. Now it looks the way exactly what I wanted, right? So yeah, that's pretty much good enough for us. And what I can simply say, well, nothing else to say here. Hey there. And I think I need to reduce the size of this hey there text over there. So what I can do is, all right, so now what we have to do is we have to bring the next text, which is going to be h2 tag, and then I'm just going to say digital product designer, something like that. So that would be there. And let me change this into like what, text, to Excel, but from medium devices onwards, text for Excel. And white space, uh, break code, not this. Okay, so let's break this guy over here then. All right, so that would be like this, then text left. Perfect. And then font semi bold, text neutral 800. That's how it looks. And tracking wider. Perfect. And this also needs to be tracking widest. So now here I can reduce this into 6 pixels and over here as 8 pixels, which is perfect now. And let's capitalize all these things. Oops, capitalize. Oh, sorry, uppercase. Perfect. And here also, let's make this into uppercase. That is also perfect. Instead of font semi bold, let's make this into perfect. Now we have the text, and even if we are expanding beyond the 1500 pixels, it won't go for beyond the 1500 pixels, something like this. Okay, but on the mobile screen we have to make sure how we want to display this in the mobile screen, so we have to write these styles for that. Okay, so later we will fix that UI part on the mobile screen later. And next we need to move on to display our recent project sections over here. So that's what we are going to do next. All right then, so now let's move on to the next section, which is going to be our work section. So let's create that over here, named as work. And I'm gonna get into the containers and create a new file called works.jsx, RAFCE. I'm going to change this into works, and this I'm going to change this into section. And here I'm going to use the ID, and I'm going to bring the ID close this and works. Get that and put it over here. Save it. We have to import this, bring it, change into add containers, save it, get back over here. Yep, this is what that needs to be. So I'm going to copy this and I'm going to put this for the class name, paste it. Then I'm going to say attach to recent project, something like that. And then I'm going to say class name text Excel, but on the medium device one was text to Excel. Text needs to be center, font needs to be bold, and text neutral needs to be 800. So this is it. This is how it looks like. Perfect. Now, if I click this works, it needs to be smoothly scrolled on to that particular section, which is working perfectly. If you click home, it will jump back to the home section, which is working perfectly as we expected, right? And this needs to be uppercase. Perfect. And right below that, I'm going to create a div, which is going to be width as full. Okay. And I'm going to create myself a grid system, grid column, two columns, and even in the mobile devices onwards, medium devices, it needs to be grid column of 3 from the medium devices onwards. So gap needs to be 2. And here we are going to bring all those, what is that? Those images and everything. So for that, we need the images and the content as well as. So we have to bring that and we have to put it over here. So let's go ahead and do that now. So for that, all I need is the image. So I'm gonna get some dummy images from here. Let's say get into the free pick, and I'm going to get some mobile apps and web apps, something like that. Okay. For the usage purposes. So I'm gonna get this one and download this as JPEG 1. Totally we need 6. So I do have 1 now. Then let me get this one. So I do 2. Let me get this 3. And we can get this 4. We can get this 5. Just download as you wish, whatever the thing which you have. But in your cases, you need to use your own project images, right? So that's the thing. So all I have to do is I have to bring all those things inside my assets folder. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So let me bring it from here. Let's say create a new projects, new folder named called projects. Inside the projects folder, I'm gonna bring all those files which I have downloaded. Projects. And then 6. Perfect. Close it, close it, close it, close it, close it. And then I'm just going to change this into project underscore 1, project underscore 2. Just rename it properly. Project underscore 3, project underscore 4, project underscore 5, project underscore 6. We do have all those things. Okay. And in the like what to say, let me close this and let me get back over here. So we need some the contents, right? So what I'm going to do is okay, so I'm gonna get into the YouTube. Okay, so over here I'm gonna bring some that image, put it to that image. Okay, this is my project. This is the sample thumbnail image of my project. I need a sample array of objects which have title, which have some dummy title, description, and then what else we need? Wait a moment. We need to display the tags or something like that, because we need to display the title, we need to display the text tags and image. in that object properties. I just need 6 data in that array. That's all we needed. And get the image. Okay. Get the image references from the assets folder index.js. Oops, I said assets folder, but I said assets form. Okay, we can customize it. That's not an issue. That's not a big issue. We can customize it all by ourselves. Title, description, text tracks, and everything. Yeah, this is how it needs to be imported. Anyways, we will import it all by ourselves. Okay, so we have some dummy text over here. Yes, and this is what we needed. Let's just copy this. I'm gonna get back into the helpers.js. I'm going to put it directly over here. Don't worry about all these things. We have to export all those 1, 2, 3 from there. So projects. I'm gonna export this from project 1, which is going to be project underscore 1 dot jpg. I'm gonna save it, copy and paste it. This is going to project 2, project 3, and copy and paste it. This is going to be project 4, then 5 and 6, 5, 6, which that is what we needed. Paste it straight away over here, and all we have to do is to get back over here, change this into project 1, bring it, change this into project 2, bring it 3, 4, 5, 6. Make sure to import all of them over here to project 3, project 4, project 5, project 6. This is it. So now we have all of them. Let's get back into the work sections, and I have to import that, right? For this, these are the projects data. Save it, and let me get back into the work sections. So here I need to bring that. So let me bring that project data dot map. I'm gonna get the project out of it. Then I'm gonna render the card, project card. So I'm gonna have myself an internal component, which is going to be project card itself. And this is going to get the property of that project complete project itself. And here this is going to have a division, which is going to be class name with, of course, it's going to be full. Okay, then width is going to be full. Then it's going to be flex column. Item needs to be starting point. Justify needs to be the starting point. Gap needs to be 2. And inside over here we are going to bring that image first. So I'm going to bring that image tag, which is going to have that project dot image. Yes, that's the project dot image. Alternative, which is going to be the project title itself. Then the class name, which is going to be, we're going to use the aspect ratio of the video, 16:9 ratio. Okay, then object needs to cover completely, and rounded needs to be medium. I think this needs to be wrapped inside a division. So let me show you one thing. So div class name, this is going to be aspect video ratio. Rounded, it's going to be medium, and overflow needs to be hidden. and flex item center justified center and put this inside over here and change this into width full, height full, object cover, and on hover it needs to scale up to 110 percentage, and it needs to be on the grayscale, and on hover it needs to be grayscale of 0. Then transition, it needs to be all, duration it needs to be 150, and ease out. So now I can bring that project card over here, project card, and I can supply the key, which is going to be project.id. Then I can supply the project directly over the project itself. If I say this, I should able to see nothing. Why is that? Okay. Oh, my bad. So in the index, which is basically all these guys are inside a new folder called projects slash project 1, project 2. That should fix the issue. There we go. See? And we have all those things are smooth. Okay. And I think we have to make a little bit changes here. This section needs to have the padding px, sorry, this needs to be container mx auto, and padding px it needs to be 12. Oops, 6. All right, then space y, which is going to be 12. You have some space, and it's the same way. Let's keep this into 1, and let's keep this into 2. That looks even better. And the gap it's going to be bigger. 4. That would be great. So duration, we need to adjust the duration. Yeah, now that looks even better. Okay, so then right after here, what we need to do is we need to bring the title over here. So I'm gonna bring myself a division, so class name, which is going to be with as full, flex item center, and justify between. Then I'm gonna have a paragraph class name. I'm gonna bring that project dot title over here, which is perfect. And for this, I'm gonna simply say font semi bold, and text needs to be small, and text neutral needs to be 600. All right, that's how it looks. Then right after here, I'm gonna bring myself div class name flex item center, and justify everything in the center. And here inside this division, basically we are going to bring those cards, right? So I'm just going to say project dot text. What is that? Text text. Copy that, and I'm going to bring that text text. Then I'm gonna splice it. Splice. I just want to display the top 3. So 0, start from 2, 3, and not slice. It needs to be slice. Slice 0 to 2. Then I'm gonna get the map function. Then I'm gonna get that tech along with the index, and I'm gonna bring that badge component from at UI badge. Then I'm going to supply the key property, which is going to be the index, and inside this badge I'm going to bring that tech. Save it. So you should be able to see that. Now I can simply say this as the what gap as 2, something like that, which is perfectly something like that. Okay. And for this badge, if you open this, what are the properties that it do have? If you check it out, we can see the variants. What is the default? What are the variants that it do have? Default, secondary, destructive, outline, ghost, link. In this case, I'm going to use the secondary variant. So I'm just going to say variant, which is going to be the secondary variant. Save it. So it looks like this. Okay, and that's all we needed, which is looking perfectly fine. But here I have to do one more thing, which is going to be this. I need to have border of 2, then border neutral 200. I think we need this a little bit even bigger border. Yep, now I should be able to see that border whenever I'm hovering it. That looks even better now. Okay, so we finished the project section, right? The next what we have to do is what is the next section? About a section, and that is what we are going to do next. So if you click the home, it will jump back, and if you get back works, this it will works. Okay, so next what we have to do, we have to move on to the about us sections, and we have to display the about us sections. Then we can go for services sections, and finally we can go for the testimonial section and the contact section. Totally we have 4 more sections to worry about. So let's move on to the next sections. All right then, so since we successfully finished the project section, so next we have to move on to the about us sections. So let's get to our app.jsx. So I'm going to create myself this about component and get into the containers folder, and I'm going to create myself a new folder called about.jsx, new file called about.jsx and RAFCE, and change this file into about. Save it, and let's import this particular section over here. Perfect. Now you should be able to see the about over here. Now all I have to do is to just do exactly the same stuff what I did for the work. Let me copy that and let me paste it up over here, and in between let me delete this division. Open. Yeah. This is going to be, if you click the about section, this is the name that you have to use, about. Okay, and this is going to be who am I, just like that. So save this changes and make sure this A as capital. Yep, who am I? So here we go. So we have that who am I section. Now right after here I'm gonna have one more h3 tag, and I'm just going to copy the same styles which I used. Later I can adjust it as I wanted, and I can change this into let me close this. And here I'm just going to say pushing boundaries since let's say 2016 or something, and I'm just going to make sure this into 2016, something like this. And here this is going to be LG, and this is going to be Excel. Or even we can make this as smaller size. Let's keep this as a bigger one. No, let's keep that one as the same size. Let's increase here, change this into 2XL and change this into 4XL. Now that would be great. And instead of font, I'm just going to keep normal, and here I'm just going to be font serif. That would be great. And instead of 800, I'm going to change this into 600. That's how it looks. And this, for this, I'm just going to say class name. I'm just going to say font sans. Use the font sans, then font semi bold, and then I'm going to make this text neutral 400, even a little bit lighter. Okay, that's how it looks. And right after here, I'm going to create myself a div with a class name of what? Let's say we have to create a grid. So I'm going to do the same styles, which I have over here. I'm going to copy this and I'm going to paste it straight away over here. Grid column 1 from medium devices onwards, 2 different grid columns and left and right sections. In the left side, we need to bring the image, and in the right hand side, we need to bring that the content section. So in the left side, let's create a div class name and aspect square. I'm going to bring the aspect square rounded XL or LG, rounded LG, shadow, and on hover we need to bring the shadow as LG, and for I'm gonna bring the BG black color. Save this. You should be able to see this. Then I'm gonna say rotate minus 12 degree. Oh, 12 degree, that's too much. Let's say 3. That's how it looks. Okay, but when we are hovering it on hover, rotate 0. So this is how it looks. So we need to make sure the transitions, so the transitions all duration 150 is in out. So this is how it looks. Perfect. Okay, now what we need to do is, let me bring this in the developer mode. Word wrap. Yes, let me make this as a word wrap so you can see the complete text over here. And now what we need to do is, I need to make sure everything is flex, item center, and justify it's in center. And in between, we need to bring that image. So inside the assets folder, we have this hero BG, right? So you can open that Google Drive link by clicking the link in the description below. So let me bring that link to this particular screen. There we go. So you can download any of this image. In this case, I'm going to use this image one. So let me download this one. Perfect. So now it is being downloaded and I have to bring it straight away over here. Change this into about.png, and in the index.js, I'm just going to say export default as about from @/assets/ what's that, about.png, something like that. Save it. Let me close this and let me close this. Get back over here and I'm going to bring that image, and for the source I'm going to bring the about, what is that, about image. That would be better. img. Yeah, now it will be loaded from the assets folder. Okay, so here now what I need to do is, I'm just going to say class name, and let me see, class name, and this needs to be width full, height full, and object contain. Save it. You should be able to see that image. Okay, so here instead of center, I need to keep it at the end, so the image will be pinned at the end. So now it's fitted perfectly in the center of that location. Okay, so that would be great. And now underneath this division, so we need to wrap this division into let me wrap this div and let me put it over here, and let me change this into width full space y is equals to 2. Now what I need to do is, right after this particular division, I need to bring the social media icon group. So let's say width needs to be full, and flex needs to be item center, and justify everything needs to be in the end, and gap needs to be 2. And let's bring the social media icon over here, which is going to be an anchor tag hyphen. So here you need to give the social media links icons over here, and I'm going to bring the WhatsApp or Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. So let me import those icons. Okay, let me import those icons first. Okay, so let's import the icons from Lucid React. So what are the icons we need? We need to bring the Facebook, and we need to bring the Instagram, and we need to bring the LinkedIn. Or if you wish to bring your GitHub as well, as that's up to you. You can bring and keep it inside over there. So that's up to you. All right. So, and let's get back to the design. How does it look? Let me see the design first. Okay. So I need to bring all those or at the corner over here. So I'm going to bring the Facebook and I'm going to say the size as 18. Where it is. There we go. So I can see that. Okay. Facebook. And I'm going to say class name. And let me change this into grayscale 100. Or what we can do is, instead of grayscale, let's go with text neutral 500. And instead of fixing the size, I'm going to make sure the text size is going to be 2XL. That's how it looks. But when the user hover, it needs to be changed to text blue 500. And whenever the user hovering it, the scale needs to be increased to 110, and the transitions, those things are all that needs to be smooth for 150s, then ease in out. So now this is how it looks, which looks perfect, right? So I'm gonna duplicate this, copy and paste it 3 more times. Instead of Facebook, I'm gonna change this into Instagram. Instead of this, I'm gonna change this into LinkedIn. Okay, so this needs to be changed into sky and this just changed into pink. Okay, so now this is how it looks. And now let's increase the gap into a little bit even bigger, so that would make sense, which is perfectly fine. All right, so that's what exactly we wanted. And yeah, that's pretty good. That's what we had. And what I need to do is I just need to change this, all these stuffs that needs to be at the top of the division over here, something like this. Okay, now it looks perfectly fine. All right, so let's increase the gap over here. Instead of space for 2, I'm gonna bring it to 6. So now I have some reasonable space over there, so that's looking even much better now. Okay, and on the other hand, on the right hand side, I'm gonna bring myself a division, class name, make sure that's width full, and space needs to be on the y-axis, it needs to be 6, something like that. Then I'm gonna bring a paragraph tag, then I'm gonna bring a dummy text over there, and that's how it looks. Okay, and that dummy text needs to be like, text needs to be on the base size, and the tracking needs to be wider, and the text needs to be neutral 500 something. That's how it looks. Okay, so we can bring one more just like this, copy it and add it even bit more, something like that. Okay, and on the right hand side itself, I'm gonna bring myself one more division, class name, which is going to be flex column, or that doesn't need it, flex, let's keep it width as full. And I need to have the border on the left side of 2, and the border needs to be gray. 200, and rounded needs to be, I think we don't need to have the rounded, and padding needs to be 4 for the time being. I'm going to keep the padding as 4, so you should be able to see a margin over there. Okay, and in between these, for these two groups, I'm going to increase the gap between these two elements. So now we have some enough gap over there, which is perfect, and that's what we needed, right? And for this, I'm going to make sure this is going to be a grid, and grid column needs to be 3 different columns, and gap needs to be 2. Okay, now here what we are going to do is we are going to bring the skill sets. What are the skill sets that you have? Like let's say HTML, or like what is the skill set that you do have? Or what we can do, we can bring that the work experiences, like what is the designation and what is the company name and how long you've been working over there. So we can keep it or that particular thing over there. Okay, and right in between here we can bring that like what is it, the Yeah, I will show you what I'm trying to say. Okay, so the design, that design, instead of like explaining it, we can bring that design over there so you can see what exactly what I mean. Okay. Oh, so here, sorry. Okay, so let me create an object over here. So for that, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to say const experience is equals to an array of objects. Okay, so basically the label, first label, that's going to be, or you can simply say that as a designation, which is going to be, for the time being, I'm just going to, what is the designation? Currently digital product designer. Okay, so working as the product designer. Okay, and we can give that, like, what is it, the company name, what's the company name that you want to add. Then you can give the years. Okay, this is all we need to give. So okay, so now what we have to do is, all we just have to fill these details. Okay, so let's give some random company names. So let's ask the ChatGPT to build that. Let me open the ChatGPT and let me ask the ChatGPT to build this. Wait a second. Okay, so let me give this. That's the structure. So generate a sample data with 5 different objects in that array. Okay. Keep the starting working year of experience 2016. Okay, so that is going to give us the companies. So I'm just going to copy this and I'm going to paste it. That's it. Perfect. So let me save these things. Let's get back to the view over here. Now all I have to do is to render the data directly inside over here. Okay, so let me open this as the experience dot map. Open it. Let's get the experience out of it, and I have to render it. So here I'm gonna bring like, what we can say, exp card, something like this, exp card, and I just have to supply the key. So we do we have a key? No. So what we have to do, key is equals to, it's going to be the index. Let's apply the index over here, and let me supply the index, and let's apply the data as the experience itself, exp. Now all I have to do is to create a new internal card over here. I'm just going to create const exp card, experience card. Copy this, and I just have to open it, and it's basically going to collect the data, and it have to return that data, right? So here I'm gonna bring a boilerplate code, and inside that boilerplate code, inside that first division, because basically we divided it into a completely grid system, right? So inside this, first I need to bring a paragraph tag or h2 tag, where I'm going to render that data dot, what is that, data dot designation. That's the name that we are going to bring it over here. Then I'm gonna bring one more thing, which is going to be the company name. Keep it. And finally, I'm gonna bring a paragraph tag. I'm gonna bring the data dot experience, like the years. Paste it. If you save it, you should be able to see that completely over here. Okay. Then so each thing needs to be okay, let's keep this as a div. If I keep it as a div, what should happens? Okay, this is what happens. So I need to bring this grid system, basically, that needs to be, that it, and let me put it over here. Class name, paste it, save it. And each of them has to have text center, or let's say text left. Okay, now it's perfectly aligned. And now instead of this, for this and for this class name, text needs to be left side. And for this, I'm gonna bring the text needs to be in the right side. Yep, that's like that. Okay. And for this and for this and for this, all these things, text needs to be small, something like that. And font needs to be semi bold, and gap needs to be 6. So I have some proper gap in between them. Let's keep this as normal, and text neutral 700, something like that. Okay, I think that would be great. And for this, I'm gonna have some padding, so let's bring the padding. Okay, now we have the nice padding over here, and it is much more readable. And I need to have the border bottom, and border needs to be gray 200, just like that. Okay, so now we have all those things, which is exactly what we needed. That's what we needed, right? And for this, I'm going to remove the padding. And I'm just going to add the padding on the left side. So let's say 2.5, that would be better. This is what it looks like. Okay, so now we have the padding, and that's pretty much good enough, and that's what we needed. Okay, and now I need to bring like the skill levels. What are the different skill levels on the product, different sizes and everything? If you want to bring that, you can simply add them over here in between these containers, like a progressing bars and all those stuffs. Okay, but in my case, I don't need to bring the skill level over here. I'm gonna keep it as it is. Okay, so this is what we have to worry about in the who are my sections. So what I need to do is I need to adjust this grid space. So instead of this, I'm just going to say flex and flex column. Item needs to be on the starting point and justify needs to be in the end. Instead of end, we can keep it around. That would be great. Okay, that's looking perfectly fine now. Okay, so now let's move on to the next section, and that is what we are going to be your services section, and that's what we are going to bring next. All right, guys, since we successfully finished the about us sections, and now we have to move on to the services sections. So in the services section, so what we are going to do is, so basically I'm just going to close this and get back over here and get into the containers. I'm going to create myself a new file called services.jsx and RAFC. Let's name this file as the services. All right, and get back into the index.js. So here I'm just going to I think this is the assets, right? Yeah, this is the assets. So let's get back to the okay, not necessary. So let's get back to the app.jsx. So here I'm just going to bring that services from dot slash containers, and let's change this to at slash containers services, something like that. So save it, and now I should able to see the services over here, which is perfect, right? So I need to make some adjustments on the about, because that we do have some enough space over there. And basically what we can do is let's say flex column, item center, and justify everything space evenly. So that should distribute this evenly, right? Or what we can do is space around. I think around would be great. And we can keep these two things inside a division div. And for this division, I can make some changes like space y, which is going to be 6, something like this. I think that would be great. Okay. Okay, this would be great. And even right after that, this h2 tag, if you wish to have any codes or something like that, you can bring that codes as well as, let's bring that codes over here. Let me bring the lorem ipsum, some specific codes, and we can mark this as the codes. Okay, so I'm just going to say class name, maximum width is going to be it's going to be Excel. And then text needs to be in the center, and text needs to be small, and text needs to be neutral, 500 or something. Yep, now that looks even better now. Okay, so let's delete this space because since we are using that, so we don't have that unwanted space. And now I think this looks even much better now. All right, so next what we have to do is we have to focus on the service sections. So I'm gonna simply copy this from here, copy this and get back to the services sections, and I'm gonna change this into services. So let's copy this completely and let me replace this just like that. Section. Wait a second. Okay, so I think I deleted that one. Yeah, that's the issue. Yep, and now I have to change this in this particular into services. Let me copy that ID and paste it properly over here, otherwise it will not work. So save it, and now everything is perfectly fine. Now inside the services sections, this is the place where we have to bring that design which we have. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm gonna make sure that this is going to contain a division, and the division it's going to be having let's make sure this something like this, flex column, item center, and justify everything in center. Okay, and at the top of this, what we are going to do is I'm going to copy this, I'm going to paste this over here. Text needs to be Excel font. We can keep it as a normal one, but font need to be sans serif. And font needs to be, style needs to be italic. Okay, so you should be able to see something like this. Instead of reasons project, I'm gonna change this into something like this, hello, something like this. Instead of uppercase, I'm gonna keep this hello. And right after here, next what we are going to do is I'm gonna make sure this is going to take something like grid, and grid column needs to be 1, but from the medium devices onwards, grid column needs to be 3, and the gap of the each columns needs to be 6. And here on the left side section, so I'm gonna bring something like a div. Okay, so I'm gonna make sure this as a flex item center, justify everything needs to be in the starting point. Okay, and the gap needs to be 2. And here I'm going to bring one more division, and I'm going to name this as the class name, and this needs to be width as 8, height as 8, rounded needs to be full, flex item center, justify everything in center, because basically we are trying to create a perfect circle. And here I'm just going to bring the bg orange as 500. And inside here I'm gonna bring an icon from Lucid React. Let's open the Lucid React I'm just going to say thunder, something like bolt. What's that icon name? So that icon name is the zap icon. So I'm going to use this zap. So let me bring the zap icon from Lucid React, save it, and that should able to display something like this. Okay, and for this I'm going to say fill with white color. So that will be filled white color and text needs to be white. Now this is how it looks. Okay, so we have a proper fill effects for that icon, and as well as, and I'm going to bring a paragraph tag which is going to be the product design or something. This is how it looks. Okay, and that needs to be wrapped outside this division. That's how it looks. And for this particular division, I'm gonna bring rounded full and bg neutral 100 or something. Yep, 100. And px it's going to be 2.5 and py it's going to be 1.5, something like this. This is how it looks. And this text sign is going to be text xs. Okay, and maybe we can reduce the size a little bit. That's perfect. And I can reduce this size as well as to 10 or something, or 12, 15. I think 16 would make sense, or even 18. Okay, so 18 sounds good. All right, this is what we wanted, and I'm gonna make sure this is one, right? This is that design. So I'm gonna cut this out, and I'm going to make this as the maybe if you want to reuse this as a component, you can do that, but in this case I'm gonna make sure this one division separately with the full, and everything needs to be flex column, and item needs to be center. Okay, and justify needs to be center. And if I paste this, this is the first one. Let's say first one, second one, and then third one. We need to have the same styles of 3 different one. This is how it looks. So I need to increase the gap. So let's say increase the gap as 6. So I have to increase the gap as 6. All right, so that's looking good. And in this one, product design, and this one it's going to be UX design, something like that. And this one it's going to be user research, just like that. Okay, and I'm going to change this orange, this one into sky, and this one into black. Wait a second, something like this, bg black. Okay, so now we have that specific styles over here. That is exactly what we need. And what I need to do is, so when it comes to mobile devices, this is not going to look exactly the same way just like what we have right now. Okay, so we can worry about that part later. And right now what I need to do is I need to adjust this rotations for this particular division over here. I'm gonna change this rotate 6. Okay, that's how it looks. And for this one I'm gonna change this into minus rotate 6, something like this. Okay, this is the very first division. This is the very first division which we completed. And right after here I'm gonna bring one more division, and I'm just going to say class name flex flex item center, justify everything in the center. And here I'm gonna bring a paragraph tag, and here I'm just going to say focus is on blending, clear strategy, thoughtful design, and user empathy to, let's bring a span tag, and here I'm just going to say craft experiences that solve real problems. Okay, this is the text content. I want to bring it in the sentence center, and then I'm just going to say this for this paragraph tag. I'm gonna say class name. Everything needs to be aligned in the center, and then the text needs to be neutral 800, and font needs to be bold, and then tracking needs to be widest, and then let's save this is how it looks, and the text size needs to be 3XL. Okay, or even you can keep it as 2XL itself. That would be great. And for this span tag, I'm just gonna change this color as text neutral 500. You can see the changes even a little bit more. You can change this. Okay, that would be great. All right, so we have this, and just like the same way, I'm gonna copy this division and I'm gonna paste this guy right after here, and this time this is going to be change this into design systems, and this is going to be usability testings, and this one is going to be brand identity. And let's change this colors from what, from emerald 500, and for this I'm gonna change this into pink, and for this I'm gonna change this into yellow. Save it, and that's how it looks. But this time this is going to be minus, and this is going to be plus. Save it. This is how it looks. Okay, and for this, width needs to occupy for this paragraph, right? So basically this paragraph needs to, this division needs to occupy the complete width, and this paragraph tag also needs to take the complete width. Okay, this is it. And yeah, that pretty much done. Or what we can do is, instead of this, I'm going to change this into 5 columns, and for this division it's going to take the column span 1, and for this division it's going to take the column span of 1, and remaining 3 columns are there. So this center divisions, oh, not this one, I'm this division, not this one, this is, these are the 3 divisions, right? You can see we have the attribute tag, we have the main grid element. It's going to take the 5 different columns, but we need only 3 columns. So the first division, which is this one, that needs to take a single column span, and this is the second division which carries the center section, and that needs to occupy the complete available span, which is going to be column span of 3. Now we have only 1 column span, and I need to put that for the last one. So now this is how it looks. Okay, and even I can expand this text structure even a little bit more. Instead of 2 XLs, and on the medium devices onwards it needs to be 4 XL. That's exactly what I needed. Okay, and instead of font bold, I can make it normal. Okay, so I think even that one is better. So font serif, let's check the font serif. How does it looks? Yep, that looks even better. Okay, so this is what we needed for our services sections, and let's remove this height. Okay, so what we can do is, let's say height, which is going to be instead of screen height, I can make this into 65% of the viewport height. Okay, so now if the user clicks the work sections, about us sections, services sections, this is what they do have in the services sections. Okay, so maybe you, if you wish to add few more things in the services sections, you can do that. So you can change this into screen itself. and you can add few more sections even right after this divisions. If you wish to have few more sections like how it works and all those things, you can add those things. So let's say have to bring this h2 tag over here, and let me paste it, and I'm just going to say how, here's how it works. So let's change this into like, what to say, underscore apostrophe. Yep, this is how you need to use the apostrophe, because by the time when you're deploying it, this might cause, sometimes it might cause an issue. Okay, so right after here, I'm gonna bring again one division class name. I'm gonna bring width needs to be occupy the complete width. Grid column, it's going to be one column, but on the medium devices onwards, grid column, it's going to be 3 different columns, and gap, it's going to be 6 again. This time, we are going to use the card design from the add components card. Let me bring the card, and for this card, I'm gonna make sure the class, it's going to have a paragraph of, sorry, the padding of 4, and inside here I'm gonna bring let's say a hatch paragraph tag, which is going to be 01, something like this. This is how it looks. So for this card, what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the outline, which is going to be or none, and I don't need the border, so border none. And then shadow, I don't need the shadow initially, and then bg, it's going to be neutral 300, or let's keep it as 200. This is how it looks. Okay, so but whenever I'm hovering it, I need to translate this guy in let's say I need to, like, we need to rotate this guy a little bit. So let's say minus rotate 12, something like this, and transition needs to be smooth all for all, and then duration needs to be 200, and ease in out. Okay, save it. So whenever you're hovering it, this is how it looks. Okay, so for this, I think 6 would be greater. Okay, now perfect. And whenever we are hovering it, I need to bring the shadow LG. Now you should be able to see something like this. That would be perfect. And for this paragraph tag, I'm just going to make sure this is the text size of 6 or 4 Yep. Then font needs to be semi-bold, text needs to be neutral, 700, something like this. And then I need to fix the minimum height of this. It's going to be 40 or 80 or even 96. Nope, much bigger than that. So I'm gonna make sure this height is 324 pixels. Oh, it is showing yellow line. Oh, that's 89. So let's make this 524 pixels then. Okay, this would be great. It can be written as 131. Okay, let's try to give 131. Okay, it's working. So you can use the height as the 131, which is working. And now this is how it looks on the, and for this I'm gonna increase the padding it a little bit. So now you have some nice paddings inside, which is perfect. And then for this, I'm gonna say flex item center. Flex needs to be in the column, and justify needs to be in the between. And this needs to be on the starting point, which is perfect. And right after here, I'm gonna bring one more division, which is going to have width is going to be full, and space wide it's going to be 6, and in between here I'm gonna bring an h2 tag, and then I'm just going to say discover. Right, no, not this one, discover. Okay, discover. And right after here I'm gonna bring a paragraph tag selling something randomly, something like this, lorem ipsum text, and this needs to be something like this. And for this h2 tag, I'm just going to say text needs to be Excel, and then font needs to be semi-bold, text neutral needs to be 700. Okay, and for this lorem ipsum text, I'm going to change text needs to be XS, and then font needs to be text neutral, that needs to be 500. Okay, which is pretty much something like this. All right, so then I'm just going to make sure this card has been cloned for second card. and then third card, something like this. So we have to paste that one and save it. This time change this number from what? From 2 and from 3. So this is will be changed, and this design, instead of discover, this is going to be design, and this is going to be deliver. Okay, and for the rotation stuff, second one needs to rotate in the positive direction, something like this. Okay, that's exactly what we want, which is looking perfectly good. And if you wish to reduce the height even a little bit more, you can reduce the height. So what I'm going to do is, instead of this padding 4, okay, so I'm gonna say padding px on, it's going to be 12. So now we have a card size is even a little bit smaller, and I can really increase the padding as 12 or 8. That would be great. And instead of height as 131, I'm going to change the height into 128 or 111. Yep, that would be even better now. All right, this is exactly what we wanted, and that's exactly how it does looks. So now we finished successfully the services sections, and next week on we can move on to the testimonial sections. So basically testimonial sections, we can create it as a like a timeline. So list of timeline, I'm just going to display the top 3 testimonials given by our client, and we can display it over there. All right, so let's go ahead and display that. Let's move on and work on the testimonial sections now. All right, people. So since we successfully finished the services section, so let's go ahead and we can work on the testimonial sections, and we can work on the contact and the footer. And finally, we can make this as a responsive and finish the sessions. And that's what we are going to do. So let's go ahead and create one more container over here called testimonials.jsx. And I'm gonna bring RAFC, and then I'm just going to say testimonials, save this, and let's get back to the work section. I'm gonna copy this and I'm gonna paste this over there, and let me bring the sections, and instead of this services or work, I'm gonna change this into testimonial. Save it, and let's bring this, and let me put it straight away from where from I'm gonna get it from the services, and I'm gonna get this h2 tag from there, and I'm gonna paste that h2 tag straight away over here. Instead of this, I'm just going to say what our customers, our clients say, what our clients say. Okay, let's get back into the app. Right after here, I'm gonna bring the testimonials, save it. So that should bring this one, what our clients say. That's the thing. And now what I'm going to do is I'm gonna create myself this division. I'm gonna say class name, width needs to be full, and this needs to be have some paddings, grid, and grid column needs to be 1, but from the medium devices onwards, grid column needs to be 2. Okay, and okay, so right out here, I'm gonna add some. Okay, we don't need any gap. So here I'm gonna bring a division which is going to be having some text, right? So which is going to be the relative positions, and padding needs to be 6. Okay, and needs to be flex column. Item needs to be everything on the starting point, and justify everything needs to be on the starting point. And the gap needs to be 8 or something. Save it, and let me enable the word wrap so you can see it clearly. Okay, So now I'm gonna bring a paragraph tag, and I'm just going to bring some dummy text as well. As this is how it looks. Okay, so for this class name, I'm just going to say maximum width is going to be the Excel width, not more than that. Maximum width this needs to be Excel, or even I can make this into larger size. That's the maximum width it should goes. Okay, and here I'm gonna bring a division which is going to be flex item center, or we can make this into item starting point, and gap needs to be 2. And here I'm gonna bring a division, or we can make this in the inside the Shadcn. We have a component called avatar component. So this is the one I'm gonna use, that avatar component. So let me copy this avatar component image, copy this, and I need to get the styles something like this. I don't need this. Okay, we don't need this avatar branch, so just we can copy this and we can paste it. And I don't need this avatar badge, I can simply delete this guy. Okay, so now if I save this, I should be able to see that one. Okay, perfect. Now right after this avatar, I'm gonna bring an h2 tag, and then I'm just going to say Daniel read. And here I'm gonna bring a paragraph tag. I'm just going to say founder of Nova Labs, something like this. Okay, so this needs to be basically in a division, and paste it. And for this, I'm just going to say class name space y-axis, it's going to be 1.5 something, or you can use the negative space -1. Perfect. And for this h2 tag, I'm just going to say text needs to be SM, font needs to be semi bold, and text neutral, that needs to be 700. And for this paragraph tag, I'm just going to say text needs to be XS and text neutral 500. This is how it looks. And right after here, I'm gonna bring a paragraph tag just by displaying this quotation mark. Okay, and that quotation mark needs to be, let's say, text needs to be pxl or something, or even 6xl. Okay, and this needs to be italic, and that needs to be absolute, and then top 4 from the right corner 4, like that, something like that. Okay, so, and then this division, it's done. This is the division, and right after that, I'm gonna have one more division as an empty one. And this is the left side, this is the left side, and the right division is going to be empty again, and the left division is also going to be empty. And third, I need to bring one more division, so I'm just going to bring this. Or what we can do, if you wish to achieve this testimonials, there are certain uh, plugins out there, you can use those plugins, or you can follow this way, leave 2 divisions empty, and you can hard code this stuff, something like this. Okay, so for this section, this particular section, I'm gonna add some border right side I need to have, and then border gray needs to be 200. So we have that border, and just exactly the same way, I'm gonna copy this, and for this, instead of right, I'm gonna add border left, something like this. Okay, so maybe there is some mismatch over these spaces. You can see these things are not aligned as we expected. Okay, this line needs to be perfectly at center, but I don't know what thing that has been messing up that space. Text gray. It's consuming a little bit more space. I think instead of adding border left for this guy, let's remove this. this is the right side section, right? So let's add the border right for this guy now. Yep, now it is perfectly aligned over there. Okay, so I'm gonna add this time we can bring this same styles from here to here. We can paste the third testimonial, and I can add that border right, and I can say border gray 200. Border or neutral, which color it is? Yes, border gray 200. Save it. You will have that border. So this is the testimonial sections. If you want to have one more thing as well, as you can add that one more sections as well as on the right hand side, that will be fine. So this border that needs to be visible only on the medium devices onwards. Border right, wherever the term I use the border, I'm gonna say medium devices only, and then border color needs to be medium devices onwards only. Okay, so please make sure it's been added up properly everywhere. So on the mobile devices, we don't want to display the borders. So this is what our client says. Okay, so I'm gonna copy this one more time from there to there, and I'm gonna paste this right away over here. Okay, something like this. I think this would be much better now. So we have our testimonial sections, which is looking so good. All right, and now all we have to do is to get back and move on to the contact us sections, and that's the only thing that we have to do, and that's what we are going to do next. All right then, so now what we have to do is we have to build the contacts page. So let me close this, and here I'm gonna create myself a new component called contact.jsx or AFCE, and I'm then going to name that as a contact. Save it. Let's import that contact straight away over here called contact from /contact. Let's change this into at. Close this, get back over here, and I'm gonna copy this completely from here, and I'm gonna replace this section with this. Okay, now if the user clicks the contact, I'm just going to copy this and I'm going to paste this over here. Save it. Okay, so now we have the contact sections, and let's get back over here, copy this, and let back over here. I don't need this at all. I'm going to delete this, and inside here I'm going to paste this as contact me, something like this, contact me. Yes, that would be perfectly fine. Now right after here I'm gonna bring those form completely. So I'm gonna make sure that form, and for the actions we don't need the actions. So for this class name, width of course need to be full, but from the minimum devices onwards width needs to be like what, 1/2 of the screen width. That's it. Then it needs to have the border, then rounded needs to be XL, then padding needs to be 4. We need to have border gray as 200. Save this. So you should able to see this. Now everything needs to be in the center page, right? So flex column, justify center, or item center. That would be great. Item center. Perfect. We kept this as the center, but still items. Okay, items center. Yeah, now it is in the center. Sorry, my bad. So this needs to be 200. Yep, now we have that. Now for this, inside this form, let me make sure this view as a clear view. inside this form, everything needs to be with the space of this. Then here I'm gonna make sure this input tag with the text type, this is going to be having a placeholder, a full name. User needs to type the full name over here. Then this input needs to have some class, something like that. So what we have to do is class name, which is going to be width as full, border that needs to be none, outline that also needs to be none, and padding, which is going to be 4, text needs to be LG, and text needs to be neutral 700 color, and font we can keep it as normal itself, and BG that needs to be gray 100. Okay, let's keep the padding as 2.5, that would be great. And then this needs to be rounded medium. Shadow also needs to be a very small shadow. We need to have a shadow effects, or shadow LG would be SM. Shadow, we need to have a mild shadow effects, or you can go for large effects itself. I think that would not be appropriate. Let's remove the shadow itself. I think that would be appropriate. Then let me copy this and I'm going to paste this time. This is going to be email field, and this is going to be email. Okay, space y12, that's a bit too much. Let's keep this 6, and I'm going to copy this and I'm going to change this into text area, and no need of type at all. And this is going to be the message, and here I'm gonna keep the columns, rows, number of rows, which is going to be 12 rows minimum. So we have this message, and right after here I'm gonna create myself a div. Class name width needs to be full, and flex item center, justify everything in the end. And here I'm gonna bring myself a button with the type of submit button, and I'm gonna send this. Okay, that looks like that. Then class name, and here I'm just going to say BG gray 200, a rounded medium. PX it's going to be 4, PY it's going to be 2.5. Save it. That's something like that. Then whenever the user hovers it, BG needs to change into orange 500, and on hover text needs to be white color, and the transitions of all that needs to be smooth with the duration of 1.5 seconds. Ease in out. Okay, so this is how it looks, which looks perfectly fine for me. Okay, so now we have the contact page, and just below that we need to bring our footer sections as well as. Okay, so what we can do is for this, what if I remove this height, screen height, flex item, everything needs to be on the starting point. Oops, center. So I need to remove this padding. Nope, not that one. Phase Y, no, that's not also. So let me inspect the elements. Where is this section? This section is basically from there. Okay, so let's change this into height of a screen height. If it is taking the screen height, so let's keep the 65% of the screen height. Or it would take okay. Okay, let's keep this as a screen height itself, because that's what we do, right? It's contact, and we need to bring the footer. So what we can do is if I put the footer over here, let me put the footer, and let's get back over here under the component sections. I'm going to create myself a component called footer.jsx or a fce, and let's rename this into footer. And let me bring this footer and let's import this straight away over here from /components. So we should able to see the footer now. Footer, change this into footer, class name. So width, that needs to be full width, okay. Then text needs to be container, mx needs to be auto, so bg needs to be black color or something, save it. Okay, so then I need to fix the minimum height. So minimum height is equals to 72. That would be the minimum height. So you can see we have a huge space around here. That's because of this height. Okay, let's ask the chat GPT. So let's ask the chat GPT over here. So let me open the chat GPT and let me paste this over here, and let's copy this. Let me paste this one as well as, and let me get back over to the footer and let me paste the footer code as well as. Because of the fixed height, I'm having this space issue. So the reason for that height, to bring that section on full screen only. Oh, I don't want to see the remainings of the other section, but that caused some UI bugs. Fix this. So let's see what does this suggestions that the chat GPT gives us. So we know that, and the padding top and the height fixing, that's causing the issues. So plain professional way is to use this as the minimum height screen. Even better professional layout pattern, flex column minimum screen, or use this calculated with. Okay, let's try with the minimum height of screen. Still that would be the same. So if you are fixing the height of the screen, then we should avoid some space. Okay, that would be fine. So that for that, what we can do is we can make this content in the center. So even that would be fine. So if you are in the testimonial sections or even in the contact sections, it's in the center sections. Okay, so yep, this is it. That's the better thing that we can do, because we are fixing the height of the sections, right? So that's the reason. And in the footer, I'm gonna bring the #2 tag, and then I'm just going to say Madison Ross full name. And then I'm gonna make sure this as a text needs to be 4XL, and the text needs to be medium devices, text needs to be 6XL, and font needs to be semi-bold, text needs to be neutral 50. This is how it looks. And everything inside over here that needs to be flex column, item needs to be center, justify needs to be center, and gap needs to be 6. So for this, I'm just gonna add the font serif, and it needs to be italic. This is how it looks. And right after here, you can bring your social media links and everything. So let's say div class name, flex item center, justify center, gap needs to be 8. And here I need to bring the Facebook. So for that, I need to bring an anchor tag, hashtag, and then target needs to be _ blank. and here I need to bring that Facebook icon, save it. I can't see that. The reason is because I need to add some styles. So let's say text to Excel, and text needs to be neutral 50. Text needs to be neutral 50. And whenever we are hovering it, I need to scale this up into 110, and the transition needs to be smooth. Duration needs to be 150, and ease in out. Save this, and let me copy this and paste it few more times. You can change this to Facebook, into GitHub, and this into Twitter. Oh, sorry, no need of Twitter. We do have this as X, right? Okay, let's keep it as the Instagram then, and let's bring the WhatsApp. Or let's bring the Messenger. Okay, nothing is happening, so let's keep the Twitter itself. Okay, these are the things. Okay, this is how the footer section is going to look. And now we have to fix the UI bug, which is going to be this the scroll event. Every time whenever the user scrolls, we need to fix that, the top header sections, and that's what we are going to do next. All right, guys, so now let's go ahead and fix this. So let's ask the chat GPT to give some ideas. Let's say create an listener event for the scroll window scroll event on y-axis using use effect, so I can change the look of my header UI. So let's apply this header UI to the JSX, to the chat GPT, so that will give us some suggestions in the existing code without touching the functionalities of the previous one. So we are basically trying to create the scroll listener. So all we have to do is to create this one. So let's create this, copy this, and it gives us the scroll listener event. So basically inside the use effect, it's creating the handle scroll. Okay, so let's redo that same stuff. So I'm just going to create the scroll use effect, react dot use effect, open it. It's going to have two different parameters along with the array injections. Inside here, I'm just going to have the handle scroll function. So the reason why we are keeping this as a separate function, because we are trying to create a listener event. By the time when this use effect closes, I need to clean that listener event properly, otherwise it causes some performance issue. So that's the reason keeping it as a function, supply it as a reference would be the proper idea. So I'm gonna make sure the scroll y, get the scroll y, scroll y axis. So from the window property itself, from the window, I'm going to access the scroll y object. Then if the scroll y, if it is greater than 100 pixels, I need to say set is scrolled, which means the user scrolled it, which is going to be true. Or else I'm going to say set is scrolled as what? False. Okay, so this is what we need to do. So here I'm going to say window dot add event listener. So I'm going to make sure that the event listener is going to be scroll, and it needs to call the handle scroll. Then I'm going to use this passive property. Okay, so passive, I'm going to make sure that value as well as true. Okay, then at the end, by the time I need to clean this listener event, so window dot remove event listener, open it, remove that scroll event by using this handle scroll function reference. Now we have this. Now what I need to do is I need to update the UI if the user scrolled. Okay, so let's see, if the user scrolls beyond the 100 pixels, I need to change this. So let's get back to the header sections over here, and let me enable the word wrap so I can see it completely. So I'm gonna cut this out, and I'm gonna bring the dynamic string literals, and I'm gonna paste this over here. Okay, and here I'm gonna add some styles. Let's say dollar. If the user scrolled, if the user is scrolled, then at that point I need to have this bg needs to be we don't need to have bg, so padding needs to be 12. Save it. If the user scrolled down, scroll down, and then bg needs to be white color. Yeah, now we can see if the user scroll down, you can see the bg is being transforming, so which means it's working. So I'm gonna make sure this padding has like what, 32 pixels. No, I don't need to write these styles over here. If for the UI which I'm trying to create, I don't need to write these styles over there. I need to write these styles over here. So I'm gonna cut this out and I'm gonna bring the dynamic string literals and paste it. So here it's basically occupying the width full, right? So, and the content, everything is in the okay. So what I can do is, so I'm gonna cut this out, um here, and then I'm gonna write some styles. If the user is scrolled, then I need to do something, and then I need to do something, right? If the user is scrolled, if he is scrolled, I need to bring the same here. I need to make sure the width, it's not occupying the width, it needs to take the 3/4 of the width. Save it. If the user scrolls, now we can see it's taking the 3/4 of the width, and then we need to keep these containers and all those stuffs directly on outer layer itself, like this. Okay, so now everything will be in the center location, and you can see that. And here I'm gonna make sure it's going to take the padding as like 4 or something, or even 6. Okay, perfect. And then backdrop, that needs to be blur 3xl. Now you can see we have a blur effect, and it needs to be like padding top, it's going to be 12, even, which, no, not padding top, I need to increase the margin top so I can see that texture separately. Yes, something like that, I can see that now. Okay, and for this I need to have some border radius, we do have that, and then I need to have some border. Okay, and then border needs to be neutral 50 out of this. Okay, and this I need to have 50 percentage or 20 percentage of its color, or even I can say 40 percentage of its color. Okay, that would be great. Then rounded needs to be XL. Then I need to have the shadow LG, so we have nice shadow effects along with the glass morphic effects over here. Okay, so I can see that, and the transition that needs to be smoothly happen. So for that I'm gonna add the transitions all. Duration needs to be 300, ease in out. So now we have the smooth transitions over there. Perfect, right? And that border, it's causing the issue, so I think it's better to remove the border itself because we have the shadow effects. So that would be great, which is perfectly now looking awesome, right? So I can clearly see all through the text, and the header and footer, everything is working fine. If the user wants to get back to the home, it's working perfectly. Works, about, service, testimonials, contacts, footers, everything is looking so good, right? So which is that exactly we wanted. Okay, something, it's pushing our entire content outside of the page. I don't know which one is pushing that. See, something is pushing our entire content to the scroll left. It's making the content to scroll left. Which one, I'm not sure. Yep, something is pushing outside of the screen. So let's see, let's check this out. Which is pushing our content, header class with the screen. minimum height screen header. So let's say if I make this overflow X into hidden. Yep, now it has been fixed. Yep, now it's fixed. So if I remove the overflow X into hidden, so everything is fixed now, which is looking perfectly how we wanted it, right? So this is how exactly we wanted it, and that's exactly it's looking. So finally, now what we need to do is we need to deploy this. Okay, and before that we need to make sure this as a responsive one. So let me get that. Okay, so I'm gonna make sure this to into this beginner friendly. Okay, so now we have to get back into the header. Okay, so we have this navigation bar. All these things are being displayed. Okay, so this header needs to be where is this container sections? This is the navigation sections, right? This nav bar sections, and along with this, yeah, this particular section, this one class name, this needs to be hidden on the mobile devices. So you will not see that in the mobile devices. Okay, so that will be removed from the mobile devices. And along with this, let's get back to the Shadcn and search for sheet. You should be able to see this sheet component. So I'm gonna get this sheet component and I'm gonna bring that sheet. Then I'm gonna copy this and I'm going to get back into right after this contact button. I'm gonna bring the sheet. Instead of open text, I'm gonna bring this menu icon from the Lucid React, and this sheet trigger that needs to be let's bring the class name, and this needs to be a block, but from the medium devices onwards it needs to be hidden. So the sheet title, we can keep the sheet title as an empty sheet title, and the sheet description, I don't want to keep the sheet description. So save this. You should be able to see this menu icon, and if I just click this, that is going to bring this menu from the top left corner. Then I can simply make sure that and then okay, so I can simply wrap these two things inside a division. Let's create a div, paste it, and let's change this class name flex item center and justify everything needs to be center and gap needs to be 2. So that will fix this issue. Okay, and inside this sheet content, right after the sheet over here, I need to bring this navigational bar, the same navigational stuff. So I'm gonna copy this nav. Okay, then I can simply paste it straight away over here, and I'm just going to make sure this not be hidden, and everything needs to be in the flex column, and justify everything needs to be on the starting point, and here also that needs to be on the starting point. Gap needs to be 12. So if you save this, this is how this looks. Okay, so now we have ourselves that mobile navigation, and if you expand it you will not see that anymore. Okay, perfect. So yeah, so instead of making this on the medium devices onwards, this navigation needs to be hidden on mobile devices, but medium devices onwards it needs to be blocked. So I'm gonna get back that navigation bar. Good, and that's exactly we wanted, right? And in then let's get back into the home section. Okay, this is the home section, and I don't want to display these two things, so I can simply remove these this entire section that needs to be hidden on mobile devices, but on medium devices onwards it needs to be displayed, so that will not be visible for the user. Then we have to keep this, and we have to keep the this one. Okay, so on mobile devices onwards, small with 380 pixels, that because this entire upper view it's too big, so that's the reason you will see that if I change this into like what, into a mobile view. This is how it looks in the mobile view. Okay, so hey there, and you have this digital product designer. I'm Madison. So we have to reduce the text size over here. So I can change this text size into 2 pixels. Okay, so I think we have to reduce this. Let's say px it's going to be 4, but from the medium devices onwards px it's going to be 12. Now we have some enough space over there. Okay, so these are the minor adjustments that we have to do. So then we have the reason project sections. Okay, now we need to fix the header as well as. So let's get back to the header. So where is the header section? So here it is. So here so we have this padding. So it should take the width full, but from the medium devices onwards it needs to be width 3/4. Now this should access the 100% of its width. Okay, so that's how it looks. Perfect. Okay, now it doesn't have a background color, so that's the reason it's showing something like that. So background, we can say VG. We have to keep this only if it is scrolled. I'm gonna say VG gradient to VG gradient to bottom, gradient VG gradient, what, BR, okay, VG linear to BR, linear gradient to BR. So here from what, from VG white of 90% to VG white of 10%. Of 10%. Okay, so what we can do is we can change this into 10. All right, this is how it looks, and that's exactly we want it. So we can change this into 2. Come on, 2 BG white. To 10% of its white color. Okay, so that's this is even better now. I think the linear gradient, there is some changes in the utility classes we have to check. Okay, but anyways we achieved it. Okay, so you can see this is not coming on top of the layer, so header that needs to be on top of everything. So this I am Madison, that is taking over that header sections. So which is coming from where, from the home section where it is. Yeah, this is also on the same level, so I'm gonna make this on 30. So now you can't see that text anywhere over on the top of it. So reason projects, that's good, looking good. Okay, so the sections, now this is causing the issue now. So that's the reason we have to make this sections, the home sections. Fixing this is the home sections. Here I need to make sure the height as the auto height as the auto, but from the medium devices we need to fix the height. So this is the thing we need to update the on the sections. Let's copy this and paste it. Okay, so for the home, let's fix the height itself, so that fix that issue. And let's get back to the work sections. We have to paste this over here, save it. Now the height will be fixed. And for the next section, what is that, app, and let's get back to the about section. And here also we need to change this, the about section. Now the about section is also fixed. Okay, so let's get back to the services sections, and we have to fix on the services sections as well as paste this. Now the services sections is also fixed. Okay, And now let's get back to the testimonial sections, and there also we need to fix this testimonial sections. Okay, so we have the testimonials perfectly in their places. And then let's move on to the contact section. Paste this, and now we have the contact sections, and the footer is as well as perfectly fine. So now we have to fix these things. I think this is perfectly fine. I think let's keep it on that way itself. But the card on the testimonials, we need to make sure to make that card to access the full width. So where is that card? Not the testimonials. I think that's the services cards. Yeah, these are the things. Okay, so the problem with this, I'm gonna get the inspect elements and get into the division. This is the grid division, and this is the grid. Maybe because of the padding which we have for the grid. Yeah, this is the one. So here, this needs to be displayed only on the medium devices onwards. Now the padding has been fixed. Card, everything is being aligned perfectly. And this is exactly what we wanted. So our complete site is now fully responsive, and it's working perfectly how we wanted it, right? So cool. Now all we have to do is to deploy this site on in the online. So we have to deploy it. So let's get back and let's deploy this project. All right then, so in order to deploy this project, first we have to push this into our GitHub. So let's get back to here and give the commit message. I'm just going to make sure that you are in the main branch. Okay, that you are in the main branch, because that's the branch which we wanted. We made all the changes, and then I'm just going to make the changes over here, changes, and I'm just going to name that as the project done or something like that, project done, and click the commit, and then pull or push to the main branch. So now we have all the changes in our GitHub. So let's get back to our GitHub, and okay, so it's asking me to sign in. So let me use my password and get into my GitHub profile. Yep, there we go. So here I need to get into my repositories, and here this is the one, portfolio React.js Shadcn 15 February 2026. That's the one. So I'm gonna copy this, and these are all the changes. You can see project done. Now let's get back into the Vercel.com. So login, which in my case it's already logged in. So I'm gonna create myself a new project in the Vercel. So please go ahead and use your GitHub and create yourself a free account. It's completely free. Okay, so here this is the project which we are trying to deploy now. So I'm gonna import this project. Okay, so I'm gonna keep this the same name, and you can see this, it's already detected the presets. So in this case, I don't have any subfolders inside this particular project. It's completely all in there. Okay, and if you have any environment variables, you can supply the environment variables as well as, but in this case I'm going to deploy this project completely. So click deploy. So you have to wait until it's successfully finishing the deployment. So let's wait. I think the building, it's already started. You can see, you can check the build blocks over here. Okay, so you can see, you can follow through if there is any error messages or been there, all these things in the build logs. So it started to download all the necessary packages, and it's running the build over here. Okay, so the project is being successfully deployed, and let's click continue to the dashboard, and there you should be able to see this, and click this. That will open up your complete website, and you can send this to your friends, or even you can update it in your GitHub, so the user or the interviewer can have a visit to your UI, what you did with the React and with the Tailwind CSS and all those stuffs. Okay, so all these things are just the basic stuffs. I know that there are lots of still there are a lot of changes that we can do in this particular UI, but just for the beginner friendly, this is the project for you guys. So if you have any questions, or if you are feel any inconvenience or any doubts, or we can do it even better, Please drop your suggestions and your questions in the comment sections by pinpointing the timestamp, what exactly in that point timestamp we can do it better, or what is the question that you have in your mind. That helps us to help you in a better way. And if you are watching this channel for the very first time, please hit the subscribe and notification bell icon. That helps us and helps us to and encourage us to bring up more contents to you. All right, so have a great day and happy coding, guys.